Chapter 184. Wuming stood on the spot and pondered. It was only when Liliana, who was blown away, came back to Wuming that Wuming reacted. "My king, are you alright?" Liliana asked worriedly. Although Liliana was puzzled when Wuming attacked the forest, she saw a figure dodging Wuming's attack the moment she was blown away. Liliana was worried that Wuming was affected by an unknown mysterious person. That was why she was so worried. After all, he was the king. "I'm fine." After Wuming came back to his senses, he remembered something. He had not yet asked what Perseus's authority was. He shook his head regretfully. "Then, let's restore this place to its original state," Wuming said as he reached his hand into the golden ripple. Then Wuming took out the item that was used to restore the land and buildings. As mana was transported into the item, the damaged land and buildings began to recover. Liliana looked at the scene in surprise and made a strange sound. After restoring all the damaged land to its original state, Wuming looked at Liliana. "Let's go. Bring me to the Bronze Cross and Black Cross stronghold to sleep. Damn it, I'm exhausted after fighting in the middle of the night." Wuming stretched and yawned. Liliana seemed to have thought of something and her young face blushed. As if she had made a big decision, Liliana blushed and looked at Wuming solemnly. I understand. If I can appease the king's anger, then I can." At the end of her sentence, Liliana's voice was completely inaudible. Wuming looked strangely at Liliana, who had turned into a mosquito coil with smoke coming out of her head. Then he knocked on her head. "Alright, bring me to the Bronze Cross stronghold first." Yes. Wuming left with Liliana. After a while, Guinevere and Lancelot returned. "Uncle, why are you avoiding Sir Villo? Also, I haven't told Lord Wuming about the arrowhead disc absorbing Perseus's authority." Guinevere held a stone disc in his hand. There was a special sword-shaped text on it. Guinevere looked at Lancelot, who was hugging him in confusion. That's right, Wuming didn't obtain authority after killing Perseus because of the stone disc in Guinevere's hand. That was the treasure of the last king. It had the ability to absorb and use the power of steel. Moreover, Lancelot was indeed avoiding Wuming. This was something that Wuming could see. "My beloved daughter, since Mr. Villo has become a godslayer, he is our enemy." Lancelot's helmeted eyes glowed red. "Enemy?" Guinevere found it hard to accept. Guinevere, who had lost most of his memories, felt incomparably blessed when he was able to recall Cyrus Eddy. The gods of this world had multiple identities. Although the Guinevere of this world wasn't completely Guinevere, he still had memories of his time as Guinevere. Guinevere's eyes were a little wet when he remembered what he had experienced with his personal knight, Villotharanst. However, it was Guinevere's lifelong wish to find and unseal the last king. "I understand, uncle." Although Guinevere seemed to be in pain, he still decided to treat Wuming as an enemy. Lancelot nodded. After a while, Guinevere sighed and looked at Lancelot behind him. Guinevere smiled and said, "Actually, uncle, you are the one suffering the most." Lancelot's body trembled and his hands clenched into fists. People always thought that the person Lancelot respected and admired the most was King Arthur, but in reality, the person Lancelot respected and admired the most was King Arthur's first knight, Villotharanst. Guinevere looked at Lancelot with a pained expression and continued. Because of the relationship between Villo and Guinevere, after Villo was sealed as the demonic dragon, Lancelot volunteered to be Guinevere's personal knight and protect the person he respected the most. Just like that, Lancelot became Guinevere's guardian and appeared on the ground as the shadow of God. Until today when he met that lord again. Lancelot was silent for a moment before he spoke. "I'm protecting you because you are the prerequisite to finding the last king. There is no other reason. I'm a little weak now, so I'll return to your shadow." Then Lancelot and the white horse turned into a black shadow and merged into Guinevere's shadow. "You're not frank at all, uncle." Guinevere smiled. Next, its monarch ape in the easternmost land. Dark clouds covered the moon and darkness shrouded the land. A moment later, the wind blew away the dark clouds and Guinevere was long gone. The next day, although Wuming slept very late last night, he still woke up early. When he walked out of the room that Liliana prepared for Wuming at the Bronze Black Cross last night, he heard a pleasant female voice. Lord Wuming, you're up. Do you need me to prepare breakfast? A girl in a maid uniform asked Wuming. Hearing that, Wuming looked at the girl. Her long green hair flowed naturally behind her back, and her face was filled with a sly smile, from Wuming's perspective. I remember your name is Karen, right? Wuming asked. Yes, it's my honor to be remembered by Lord Wuming. The girl named Karen bowed and replied with a smile. Then I'll have to trouble you to prepare breakfast for me, Wuming said. Your breakfast has been prepared by Miss Liliana. Please come with me. With that, Karen pointed forward with both hands and motioned for Wuming to go first. Wuming shrugged and walked forward. Karen followed behind Wuming with a smile on her face. Glancing at the maid, Wuming could not help but think of last night. After Liliana brought Wuming to the Bronze Black Cross's stronghold in Naples, Liliana personally prepared a room for Wuming. Karen was also there at that time, and Liliana introduced her to Wuming. Then, after Wuming entered the room, Liliana walked in pajamas after a short while. Looking at the blushing Liliana, Wuming shook his head and asked for the reason. In the end, because of Liliana's fantasy and the instigation and bewitching words of the maid named Karen, Liliana thought that she had to serve Wuming in bed to appease his anger. After being lectured by Wuming for a while, Liliana ran out of the room with a blush. You won't even let go of your master. You really are a little devil, Wuming said casually. Thank you for the compliment, Lord Wuming. Karen smiled and thanked Wuming. Soon, Wuming arrived at the dining room. Chapter 185. When he pushed open the door of the restaurant, what he saw was not the luxurious feast that Wuming had imagined. Instead, it was an extremely simple Italian breakfast. Sandwiches, sausages, fried eggs, bread, and a cup of coffee. It was simple and sumptuous. Seeing Wuming's stunned expression, Liliana, who was standing at the side, was a little flustered. Because I don't know what you like, King. However, I heard that you are the British god of disobedience, so I tried to make some British breakfast food. Looking at Liliana, who was a little embarrassed, Wuming laughed heartily. Ah! Liliana was frightened by Wuming's laughter, while Karen was secretly laughing. She had already heard that there was no dissatisfaction in this laughter, only happiness. Sorry, because every time I'm served by others, it's an extremely sumptuous banquet, so I'm not used to such dullness. Then, Wuming walked to the table and sat down. However, although this food is simple, it feels sumptuous. I'm very satisfied, Liliana. Liliana heaved a sigh of relief and patted her small chest that had just developed. King, it's good that you like it. Wuming took a bite of the fried egg. It was surprisingly not bad. Could it be that Liliana made all these herself? Wuming asked. Why, yes. Liliana's face was slightly red as she said shyly. Your culinary skills are really good. Do you want to come and be my knight? Wuming said with a smile. Huh. Liliana exclaimed. It was obvious that she did not react in time. I'm serious. I'm very satisfied with your performance last night. For this land, you launched an attack on Perseus alone. Although you overestimated yourself, this is what a knight should be like. Think about it. Perhaps it was because he had been in Camelot for too long. Wuming had a particularly good impression of people with chivalry. Moreover, she was a beautiful young lady. Cough cough, Karen walked to Wuming's side and said, I'm sorry, Lord Wuming. I'll go and persuade Miss Liliana. I'll take my leave first. After bowing, Karen brought Liliana out of the restaurant without any explanation. Karen, I remember that you're the trainee witch of the Bronze Black Cross. You really live up to the title of witch. This character. Wuming smiled, then began to enjoy the food again. Outside the door, Karen stood Liliana. Karen, what are you doing? It's rude to leave the king alone. As she spoke, Liliana pretended to go back. Miss Liliana, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Liliana. Liliana was Liliana and LLA. Our Bronze Black Cross and Red Bronze Black Cross are the two biggest magic associations in Italy. We used to have equal status. In the end, Lady Erica Brantley sought refuge with Lord Wuming. Our Bronze Black Cross has gradually declined. Karen turned around and continued. Also, because of your incompetence, Marquis Wabin also thought that you're dead. If Lord Marquis finds out that you're still alive, he'll go and look for you. Who knows what this eccentric Lord Marquis will do? Liliana's body trembled. For example, the bronze black cross of destruction. The original plan was for you to seek refuge with Minister Salvatore, but in the end you lost him. Last night, because Salvatore Tony slashed open the god relic Hera's stone pillar, he was swept away by the huge magic impact. Moreover, Lord Wuming requested to bring him to the bronze black cross foothold, so Liliana missed the King of Swords. Didn't you want to give yourself to the King of Disobedience yesterday? Why don't you seek refuge with him? Liliana blushed again as she spoke to this point. It's all because of you. Otherwise, why would I misinterpret the king's words? Liliana pointed at Karen with a blushing face. Don't you think this is fated, Ms. Liliana? Karen smiled faintly. Fated? Fated? Liliana could not react in time. Karen smiled cunningly and continued to explain. On the night of the disaster, the hero and the heroine met under the moon. The hero defeated the evil opponent and brought the heroine home safely. As Karen's words bewitched her, Liliana, who was delusional, began to fantasize with a blushing face. Ms. Liliana? Karen interrupted Liliana's fantasy. After snapping back to her senses, Liliana coughed with a blushing face. Cough. Looking at the current situation, that's the only way. Oh, Ms. Liliana, you're not frank at all. Looking at Karen's mocking smile, Liliana was like an angry kitten. At this moment, a voice sounded. How is it? Have you thought it through? Wuming stood beside the two girls and said. When? Both Liliana and Karen were shocked. After snapping back to her senses, Liliana knelt on one knee. Liliana Kranikar, I offer my everything to the King of God Slayers. I will turn into a sharp sword and cut through all enemies that block the path of the king. Just like that, Liliana became Wuming's knight. So this is your excuse to take advantage of my absence. Erica looked at the serious Liliana and was a little displeased. The next day, Erica found that Wuming was missing, so she urgently contacted Wuming. After learning that Wuming was in Naples, she immediately rushed over. And no choice. I came because I saw that Lord Wuming needs talents around him. After all, how can the king not have a servant who knows how to cook? Liliana blushed a little. Although Erica was right, Liliana would definitely not compromise with her rival. Oh, is that so? Then Lily, as the head chef, you can prepare food for the king in the rear. If there is any battle, I, Erica Brantley, will take care of it. What? Damn, Erica, I am the king's knight. Preparing food for the king is just a side job. Oh, you don't care about preparing food for the king. This is the dream of many people. It seems that Lily, you still underestimate the king too much. How could that be? I didn't mean that. Seeing Liliana gradually being forced into a disadvantageous position by Erica, Wuming interrupted the conversation between the two. Okay, that's enough. Get ready, we will go to Japan tomorrow. Go to Japan, why so suddenly? Liliana was puzzled. After all, the original plan was to go to Japan. Wuming was dragged here by Athena, and Liliana had just become Wuming's knight. It was normal that she didn't know the truth. After Erica told her about Alice's spirit vision prophecy, Liliana also understood the seriousness of the matter. I see the last king of the strongest steel is in Japan. Since my lord wants to go, then as my lord's knight, Liliana Kranikar will definitely follow. Me too. Erica Brantley swears to follow you to the death, Erica said defiantly. You two are the wielder of the twin swords, Lion's Heart and Silver Master Craftsman. Can't you two get along well? Wuming complained. The weapons used by the two were the swords of a former Grand Knight. They were originally a pair of magic swords, but because of the death of the Grand Knight, the magic swords were separated. After tossing and turning, they fell into the hands of the Black Cross and the Black Cross, and were then handed over to their respective prodigies. I love Lily very much, Wuming, Erica said with a sly look. Who would believe you, you vixen? Liliana looked angry. Obviously, Erica had tricked Liliana more than once. Erica stopped talking back to Liliana and looked at Wuming. Then, I'll contact the plane to Japan. Liliana also got up and said, I'll go prepare dinner tonight. Then the two girls left the room. At this moment, Wu Ming was thinking, where did Athena go? Chapter 186. Wu Ming remembered Athena, who started the whole thing. If it weren't for Athena, Wu Ming wouldn't have come to Naples. It wasn't Athena's fault. Ever since Wu Ming learned about his identity as the god of disobedience, Wu Ming had a special fondness for dragon snake and steel. Fortunately, Wu Ming could still control himself. The problem was that Athena was gone. It was like the banquet was over, and the host left first. I always feel like you're thinking about something bad. Suddenly, Athena's voice sounded behind Wu Ming. Wu Ming turned his head, and the first thing he saw was the child's body. Athena, where have you been? Wu Ming touched Athena's head. Then, Wu Ming smelled blood on Athena's body. What happened? Did someone hurt you? Wu Ming frowned and asked Athena with concern. Oh, you're really bold, Villo. Do you think you can touch the goddess like this just because you're a dragon snake incarnation? Athena narrowed her eyes and looked at Wu Ming with a puzzled look. In short, let's heal first. Saying this, Wu Ming squatted down and activated his magician avatar. With the power of my words, remove all pain. Wu Ming's body began to glow. Then Wu Ming approached Athena. I'll heal you now. Just when Wu Ming was about to touch Athena's forehead with his forehead, Athena suddenly stepped forward and kissed Wu Ming. Wu Ming, who didn't expect Athena to kiss him, was a little stunned and stood there in a daze. After a brief kiss, Athena let go of Wu Ming's lips. Why didn't you heal me? Athena looked at Wu Ming with her big obsidian eyes. At this time, Wu Ming reacted. I forgot. Wu Ming smiled awkwardly. Then, that was your reward for defeating Perseus. Let's do it again. This time, it's healing. After that, Athena kissed Wu Ming again without giving him time to react. Wu Ming, who was already prepared, activated his magician incarnation's healing ability. Through the kiss, Athena's body began to glow. After healing Athena, when Wu Ming wanted to separate, Athena hugged Wu Ming's head. Wu Ming was not a pretentious person. Since Athena didn't want to let go, then he'll be happy with it. As the saying goes, life is like that. If you can't resist it, then enjoy it. After a French kiss, Athena separated from Wu Ming. Athena and Athena separated had a crystal's blood. Athena sucked hard, and the liquid was sucked into Athena's mouth. This is an extra reward, Athena said calmly. The goddess's reward is really rich. Wu Ming smiled. Later, Wu Ming sat on the bed with Athena in his arms. Your injuries were caused by Salvatore, right? Wu Ming asked. When Wu Ming treated Athena, Callas detected the residual magic power from the wound. It was Salvatore's magic power. Well, when I was watching the battle, I found another god slayer, so I went to stop him. Athena explained the process to Wu Ming. After Salvatore was blown away by the magic power generated by Hera's stone pillar, he came to Sardinia. With the idea that he could not miss the battle, Salvatore hurried back to Naples. Originally, when Salvatore noticed that Wu Ming was fighting with Perseus, he wanted to watch the battle, but Athena came. After knowing that the other party was goddess Athena, Salvatore's fighting spirit was ignited again. So the two fought. As a result, Salvatore, who broke out with fighting spirit, used his full strength. Athena, who still had an incomplete divinity, didn't want to fight with Salvatore. She just wanted to stall him, so she was slashed by Salvatore. Although Athena had slightly healed herself, the compatibility between Salvatore's silver arm the Ripper and Athena was quite bad. Therefore, for the current Athena, the wound caused by Salvatore's slash could not be completely healed. It's just a minor injury. It doesn't matter. Athena was quite calm. Then, Athena's nose twitched. You met the god ancestor, right? The god ancestor was the form of the Mother Earth after her fall. After the Mother Earth fell into the god ancestor, she lost most of her authority as a god, and became able to combine with humans to give birth to offspring. For example, Wanli Guyoli, the witch that Wu Ming saved when he defeated Marquis Warban. A witch like her who had the rare talent of spirit vision, was the descendant of the god ancestor and human. Wuming's newly recruited knight, Liliana Kranikar, also had the spirit vision ability. She was a witch and also the descendant of the god ancestor and human in ancient times. For example, the spirit vision ability of Wanli Guyoli and Liliana was like an atavism. They had special abilities such as seeing through divinity, analyzing God's name, and temporarily foreseeing the future. Alice's spirit vision ability, which could foresee the future for a long time, could be said to be quite powerful. Although this ability was very powerful, more powerful than that of Wanli Guyoli and Liliana, there were also drawbacks. That was a significant decrease in physical fitness. The reason why Liliana could become a knight and fight on the battlefield was that her spirit vision ability was quite weak. Such a weak spirit vision ability gave her a strong physical fitness. For example, Wanli Guyoli's spirit vision could be said to be on the high side. Her physical fitness was inclined to the virtual side. On the other hand, Alice's body was directly affected. Not only was her body sickly weak, but she also couldn't go out for long periods of time. Even standing for a little longer would cause slight damage to Alice's body. She could only walk outside in the form of a ghost. This was the drawback. But compared to the drawbacks, its advantages were coveted by countless magicians. The descendants of the god ancestor like Guinevere had a chance of producing such a talent. You mean Guinevere, right? You know my identity. It's not strange for me to meet Guinevere. Hearing Wuming's words, Athena's snake-like eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness. You may not know, but Guinevere, who was able to degenerate into a god ancestor, had a long-cherished wish that couldn't be realized even after several reincarnations. Moreover, you who have become a god slayer are completely opposed to the long-cherished wish of the god ancestor. Looking at Athena's obsidian eyes, Wuming smiled. So what? So what if it's fate? Didn't we, the god of disobedience, come here to fight against fate? Wuming said confidently. Although he was not the god of disobedience in the true sense, he was. I have underestimated you, Villosilenced. Thinking about it, only heroes like you can say such words. Athena said as she broke free from Wuming's embrace. Since you have said so, I will not stop you. I look forward to your new story in Japan. Until we meet again, my compatriot. With that, Athena turned into a black shadow and disappeared into the night. Chapter 187. The next day, Wuming boarded the plane that Erica had arranged for him to fly to Japan. In the first-class cabin, Wuming sat on the sofa. Across the table, Erica and Liliana sat across from Wuming. I have to say, it's a blessing to have Erica here, Wuming said comfortably as he looked at the scenery outside the window. Wuming said, although I don't want to admit it, Erica is still the best in this situation. Liliana said with a slightly rosy face. Although I feel that you're saying the same thing about me, I, Erica Brantery, will accept your compliments. Erica had a proud expression. I hate it when you're like this. You're like a vixen who stole meat. Liliana looked at Erica with resentment. Please call this the pride of a proud lioness. Seeing the two of them at each other's throats again, Wuming smiled. Wuming could not help but recall what Karen and Yali Anna had said. You two have a good relationship, Wuming said. Who has a good relationship with her? Even the king can't judge his own knight as he wishes, Liliana retorted with a slightly red face. What are you talking about, Lily? We're very close friends. Erica leaned toward Liliana with a joyful expression. You don't come over. You rascal. Erica became even more excited and instantly hugged Liliana. Let's be intimate, Lily, wah. Just as Erica and Liliana were fooling around, Wuming sensed that something was amiss and frowned. When Erica saw this, she gave up on fooling around with Liliana and looked at the frowning Wuming. What's wrong, Wuming? Did something happen? Wuming stood up and opened the door to the cabin. Erica and Liliana immediately followed him. After exiting, the two of them saw Wuming using his holy aura. Its effect was to make everyone on the plane fall into a deep sleep. Then, Wuming took off the golden dragon horn on his head and gave it to Erica. I've temporarily controlled the entire plane with my magic. Go to the captain's room immediately. She's my subordinate god. Kalas will tell you how to control the plane. After controlling the plane, fly according to the route provided by Kalas. Miss Erica, Miss Liliana, nice to meet you. As a versatile magic accessory, Kalas' database contained all the methods to use modern machinery. This was something that Kalas herself had requested, and it seemed that Kalas was more interested in these things. Nice to meet you, Liliana replied politely. Erica nodded and looked at Wuming. Is there a new god of disobedience? Well, and it's the god of steel. It seems that I triggered it, Wuming said carefully. It was just like the heroic spirit summoning in the Emun world, which required a holy relic to summon a specific heroic spirit. The same was true for the appearance of the god of disobedience in this world. Wuming's divinity as draconic snake attracted the god of steel. It seems that I have to cast some concealment magic on myself in the future. Otherwise, it would be too conspicuous for a god of disobedience to appear in a place. Wuming-sama, you have to be careful. The god of steel has a restraining effect on you. You must not be careless. Liliana looked at Wuming seriously. I know. Although I'm the god of disobedience, I'm not belligerent. If I can't win, I'll still run. After that, Wuming, who walked to the cabin door, opened it, and flew out of the cabin. Let's hurry to the captain's room. Liliana nodded, and then the two of them went to the captain's room. Outside the plane, the whole plane was stuck in time, and Wuming used magic to control it to float in the sky. Compared to being a magician, Wuming preferred to be a fighter. That was why Wuming had been using all sorts of methods to fly, including magic and items. However, people will also improve. Wuming once tried to fly with magic wrapped around his whole body. Although it was a bit awkward, it was still acceptable. Now Wuming was flying in that way. After noticing that the plane, which had lost control, regained power, Wuming removed the outer layer of magic that made the plane stagnate, and the plane began to fly again. After the plane was almost gone, Wuming turned his head and looked somewhere in the clouds. I'm the strongest, to catch all the victors. Humans and demons, all enemies, to defeat all hostile people. So I'll break all the enemies in front of me. After using the magic-activated spirit of speech, Wuming's eyes were full of fighting spirit. It's time to come out. Don't let me think that you're afraid of me, unknown god of steel, Wuming provoked. And just as expected, the god of steel spoke at once at those words. You really dare to say that, a mere dragon snake, see if I don't pull out your tendons. A rather delicate voice was heard. As the voice finished speaking, a pillar of fire flew out from the clouds and shot toward Wuming. I will deny the sky, deny the earth, the storm destroys everything, the shower covers everything. I will make everything in the world bow down to me with this supreme divine power. As the spirit of speech chanted, on the stone plate in Wuming's heart, the long needle pointed to the direction of 4 o'clock, and the stone plate that was engraved with a storm lit up. Wuming raised his hand, and a strong storm burst out from Wuming's hand. With the supply of powerful magic from Wuming, the pillar of fire that was heading toward Wuming was blown away. The storm that blew away the pillar of fire rushed toward the clouds. Whoosh! The sky was like a picture that was cut open, and the huge clouds were split into two. A fiery red figure flew above the clouds. This guy, your ability to control the wind is the strongest I've ever seen. Wuming looked at the figure. Red silk, a golden diamond ring, and a flaming undying wheel. He was dressed in red and had 2 pigtails on his head. He held a fire-tipped spear in his hand, and he was as small as a child. Seeing this scene, Wuming narrowed his eyes. Look at your outfit. Your real name must be Neza. Hey, it's all my master's fault for giving me so many treasures. It's too easy to recognize me. Neza smiled innocently like a child and touched his head embarrassedly. It couldn't be helped. Neza had too many iconic items. Leaving aside the red armillary sash and the universe ring, there were not many gods who had the wind-fire wheels under his feet. Let's not talk too much. It's not easy to come out, and we even met a foreign dragon snake. Let's hurry up and fight. As he spoke, Neza rushed toward Wuming with the fire-tipped spear in his hand. After defeating Perseus, Wuming faced the god of steel again. Chapter 188. Wuming immediately took out the meteor silver and faced Neza, who was rushing over. The storm condensed on the blade of the meteor silver. With Wuming's swing, the sword of the storm was swung out heavily. Dong. Neza was sent flying by the pressure of the storm. Haha, fun, really fun. Although Neza was sent flying, he didn't suffer much damage. Instead, he laughed happily. Wuming secretly began to think about Neza's background. Neza was an ancient mythical figure in China, the guardian of Taoism. Neza's religion flourished in Taoism and folk beliefs. In Taoism, his titles were Marshal of the Middle Altar, Grand Tutor of Heaven, Illustrious General, and Great God of the Three Altars. Although he was reincarnated as a human as Ling Juzi, there was a legend that he killed the son of the Dragon King of the East Sea, abandoned his body, and rebuilt it with a lotus. Rebuilding his body and killing the son of the dragon were undoubtedly in line with the god of steel's metaphor of the steel smelting process in killing snakes and dragons. Moreover, he had a lot of treasures that could deal with many kinds of battles. What a troublesome god, Wuming thought. Let's make a deal. How about you return to the mythical realm yourself? I don't want to. It's not easy to come out. I have to have some fun. Neza smiled sweetly at Wuming. Dragon snake, take this. After saying that, Neza took off the golden steel ring on his body and threw it at Wuming. Feeling the murderous intent from the golden steel ring, Wuming held the sword with both hands. The storm on the meteor silver sword instantly weakened, and the meteor silver became faintly transparent. Wuming attached the pressure comparable to a top-level storm to the meteor silver sword. While slightly refracting light, the meteor silver also became an extremely sharp high-pressure saw. The golden steel ring and the meteor silver collided, and an unusually violent noise was made. I am a conqueror who can defeat 1,000 with 100, 10,000 with 1,000, and 10,000 with 10,000. Now for me, who is standing on the side of justice, please shine brightly and bestow upon me the divine power of lightning. Once again, the short needle on the stone plate in Wuming's heart slid and pointed at 9 o'clock. That was a god standing under the raging thunder. The meteor silver produced a trace of electricity. In an instant, the electricity violently flowed out from the meteor silver and scattered to the surroundings. I am the one who will crush all enemies and enmity between humans and demons. Following the chanting of the enhanced spirit language, the lightning instantly condensed and attached to the meteor silver. Wind blowing, iron striking, fire burning, lightning striking, and water soaking. Under these conditions, steel can become stronger. Crack. Cracks appeared on the universe ring. However, excessive exercise will break the steel. Cock-a-bang. This universe ring, which had the property of killing snakes and slaying dragons, was shattered by the meteor sacred sword under the support of Wuming's storm and thunder incarnations. The universe ring was the most commonly used treasure of Neza. Seeing that his treasure was destroyed, Neza was furious. Although Neza existed as the guardian of Taoism, he also had a violent and unyielding character. In the myths, Neza was brave and fierce, eccentric, and loved to fight and make trouble. He was very aggressive and didn't care about life and death. How dare you damage my treasure? Today, I will pull out your tendons and make a belt. Under these conditions, Neza directly showed 3 heads and 8 arms. This was the 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya. Many people only knew about the 3-headed, 6-armed Neza, but not the 3-headed, 8-armed Neza. 6 arms referred to the 6 hands holding the demon-slaying sword, the demon-slaying knife, the demon-binding rope, the demon-subduing pestle, the embroidered ball, and the fire wheel. The 8-armed Dharmakaya had 4 hands holding the universe ring, the red armillary sash, the golden brick, and the 9 dragons' heavenly fire shield. The remaining 4 hands held a fire-tipped spear, and the other 2 hands held the yin-yang sword. After using the 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya, Neza had a green face and fangs. His hair was like cinnabar, and he looked very fierce. Whether it was the 6-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya or the 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya, they were extremely ugly and could not be restored to their original state. In the myths, Neza could freely change between the 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya and an ordinary body because of the art of concealment taught by his master, Tai Jinren. Dragon Snake's old enemy, take this. Neza shouted in a hoarse voice. Then, he rushed toward Wu Ming with 7 weapons in his hands. The universe ring was replaced by the demon-slaying sword. Good timing. Wu Ming also shouted. Using the storm to increase his speed and the thunder god to increase his reflexes, he used the meteor silver to fight against Neza's 7 weapons. Neza was indeed the guardian of Taoism. With the 7 weapons, he was evenly matched with Wu Ming. I didn't expect a foreign dragon to have such martial arts skills. This is awesome. Neza, who was in the form of a green-faced demon, had gradually forgotten about the destruction of the universe ring. He was immersed in the joy of fighting Wu Ming. Wu Ming dodged the golden brick that Neza threw at him and stopped at the side. The fight is over. Now is the time for the real killer move. If you want to run, now is the time. Wu Ming held the sword with both hands. The tip of the sword pointed upward. Interesting, very interesting. Let me see the prowess of a dragon from a foreign country. Ha ha ha. Neza shouted. With his green face and fangs, the 8 weapons in his hands and feet exploded with powerful magic power. He rushed toward Wu Ming with Neza. X silver meteor silver. The extreme meteor with the storm and thunder collided with the 8 fiery lights. The heat evaporated and affected the surrounding weather. Dark clouds gathered in an instant. Wind howled, rain fell, and lightning flashed. When the meteor silver's light disappeared, Wu Ming and Neza were already very close to each other. In the end, it was the impact of Neza's 8 weapons that broke through Wu Ming's meteor silver. But, clatter. The sound of chains sliding could be heard. Damn it! It's a weapon against gods. Neza struggled with his green face and fangs. Wu Ming's slightly battered figure floated in front of Neza. He reached out a hand, and there was a golden ripple in front of his hand. The golden chains wrapped around Wu Ming's hand entered the golden ripple in front of him. A few ripples appeared around Neza, and a few heavenly chains extended from them. They bound Neza's body and limbs, restraining him. Wu Ming had expected that the meteor silver would not work on Neza. It was just an illusion on the surface. Wu Ming had already asked Enkidu to be prepared. When Neza broke through the meteor silver's light, the chains would immediately bind him. Even if it's a weapon against gods, my fire-tipped spear can break it, Neza said as he prepared to attack with his fire-tipped spear. At this moment, Wu Ming moved. He moved his hand with the heavenly chains, and a few more ripples appeared. A few golden heavenly chains immediately flew out and bound Neza's weapons, including the wind-fire wheels, and the other 8 divine weapons. You're a general now, aren't you, Neza? Wu Ming said with a smile. Damn it. Neza said viciously. Then he deactivated his 8-armed, 3-headed avatar. Since I've lost, you can do whatever you want to me. Although Neza was bold and daring since he was born, he was also a man who dared to do what he wanted. He dared to love and hate, and he was soft on the outside but tough on the inside. To him, a loss was a loss. He had no intention of quibbling about it. If you can return to the myth by yourself, I won't have to do anything, Wu Ming said tiredly. Neza was puzzled. You're really strange. Although I don't know what you are, I can still sense that you're a godslayer. Won't you be able to increase your power if you kill me? This was because Wu Ming did not have high aspirations for authority. In his opinion, having enough power was enough. Too much power would only lead to drawbacks. It's none of your business. Do you know the myth or not? Wu Ming stared at Neza fiercely. Neza rolled his eyes as if he had thought of something. Then he said firmly, I refuse. Wu Ming shook his head regretfully. Then goodbye, Neza. Poochie. Chapter 189. Mount Lu, China. Wu Ming was sitting in a nunnery filled with ancient Huaxia style. This nunnery was not big. It was plain, but it looked very simple. A teacup was placed in front of Wu Ming. It was filled with fragrant tea. Even though Wu Ming had never tasted it before, he could tell that the tea was expensive. A young man stood beside Wu Ming. His name was Luinghua, right? Your master hasn't come out yet? Wu Ming asked the handsome young man. I'm sorry, Lord Wu Ming. My master is very particular about etiquette. Plus, my master is an unmarried woman. She will not come out to meet guests before she is dressed. The young man who Wu Ming called Luinghua was very kind. He answered Wu Ming's questions in a gentle voice. Fine, I'll wait a little longer. Wu Ming shook his head helplessly. He picked up the cup of tea in front of him and tasted it again. By the way, can't you sit up and talk? Wu Ming looked at Lu Yinghua strangely. Wu Ming said that because Lu Yinghua was kneeling on the ground in a kneeling posture. No, Lord Wu Ming, you are on the same level as my master. Lu Yinghua will not dare to be presumptuous in front of you. Otherwise, my master will punish me for insulting the king. Do as you wish. Wu Ming gave up. Why did Wu Ming come to Mount Lu in China? It had to be related to the battle between Wu Ming and Neza. Wu Ming's dragon snake attribute attracted the god of disobedience, Neza. At that time, the plane that Wu Ming was on happened to be in China. Wu Ming and Neza fought in China, so it must have attracted the attention of the Chinese arcane masters. When Arcane Master Feng noticed the appearance of a disobedient god, he immediately reported it to the Huaxia god slayer, Wuxia King Luo Hao. According to Wu Ming's understanding, China's Wuxia King, Luo Hao, was one of the only 7 god slayers in the world. He was the leader of China's Wulin Alliance, the leader of China's 5 Hells sect, Jiangnan's Wuxia King, and the pinnacle of martial arts. According to the records, it had been more than 200 years since he killed a god. Marquis Warban and Hierarch Luo Hao were the earliest godslayers and were mortal enemies. Before he killed the god, he was a martial arts genius. He had mastered a large number of martial arts and was good at Qinggong. After becoming a god slayer, he created his own ultimate skill, the 12 Flying Phoenix Divine Palms. 30% of the Chinese Feng Xian masters obeyed Luo Hao. However, Wu Ming did not know what Luo Hao looked like. Luo Hao had a rule that anyone who saw his appearance had to dig out their own eyes. Anyone who heard his voice had to destroy their own ears. As expected of a demon who could be compared to Marquis Warban. Wu Ming thought to himself. Although Wu Ming didn't reject such a person, Wu Ming really didn't want to have any dealings with such a person for the time being. Wu Ming really didn't want to have anything to do with such a person. Alright, it was actually Wu Ming who was getting impatient. Originally, after Wu Ming killed Neza, Luo Hao's direct disciple, the handsome young man, Lu Yinghua, who was lying on the ground, came to Wu Ming. Wu Ming still remembered Lu Yinghua's speech at that time. The disobedient king of heaven and earth will live as long as the heavens and earth, and will never be destroyed. Your might is infinite. Your wisdom and mercy will shine across the world. Stop right there. Wu Ming immediately interrupted him. Then, after a self-introduction, Lu Yinghua brought Wu Ming to Mount Lu. Wu Ming did not want to come, but Lu Yinghua said, "My master wants to see you." Wu Ming followed Lu Yinghua here with the thought that since he was causing trouble in someone else's territory, he should at least meet the master. When is that cult master Luo Hao going to come? Just as Wu Ming was complaining in his heart, Lu Yinghua suddenly shouted somewhere in front of him. The wise and brave sacred cult master's famous name will live as long as the heavens and earth, and will never be destroyed. Your might is infinite. Your wisdom and mercy will shine across the world. Disciple Lu Yinghua wishes master a long life. Just as he finished speaking, a beautiful girl of about 17 or 18 years old appeared in front of Lu Yinghua. She had a beautiful face and beautiful black hair that was as black as silk. It was braided into 3 braids. The girl was wearing a white Han Chinese dress that was similar to a Qi-style uniform. She put on a green blouse with long sleeves and a long skirt, and an elegant lower garment that looked like a long skirt. Because it was a right-style dress, it looked a little like a kimono. It was hard to imagine that cult master Luo Hao, who had lived for over 200 years, would actually be such a beautiful and tender girl. He's just like a master. Wu Ming thought of Skaha. The moment she came, the girl opened her mouth. Even though she had lived for over 200 years, Luo Hao's voice was still gentle and pleasant to the ears like a 16-year-old girl. I don't remember letting you entertain the king of disobedience who is also a king. However, the girl's next action made Wu Ming's eyes drop. Luo Hao seemed to have seen the slight impatience on Wu Ming's face, and thought that her disciple had not taken good care of him. She then sent a palm strike at Lu Yinghua. PFFF. Lu Yinghua screamed miserably as he was sent flying by Luo Hao. Lu Yinghua flew backward and spat out a mouthful of blood. He then collapsed on the ground and lost consciousness. Go to the back of the mountain and reflect on your mistakes for 7 days, Luo Hao said indifferently. The corpse-like Lu Yinghua suddenly got up and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He then knelt on one knee and saluted Luo Hao. Thank you, master. He then ran away. Wu Ming raised his eyebrows and then stretched out his hands to massage his temples. As expected of an older generation godslayer. Just like what the picture said. She's an extremely strange person, just like Marquis Woban. Wu Ming's heart was about to break down. After all, this beautiful and quiet girl was actually a queen who killed without batting an eyelid. This contrast made Wu Ming unable to react. King of disobedience from a foreign country, I welcome you to Huaxia. Luo Hao smiled. I've heard of your deeds. As a god of disobedience, you became a godslayer. Although this is the first time this has happened, it's not unacceptable. I just checked the information sent by the arcane masters. You killed 2 gods of disobedience in Italy's Sardinia and defeated the King of Swords. You defeated my old enemy Woban in England. Then you killed Perseus in Naples. And just now you killed our mythical Neza. From your performance, I can see that you've chosen to protect humans instead of disobeying them. This qualifies you to be a king. But before Wu Ming could say anything, Luo Hao's tone changed. You attracted a godslayer in Huaxia and killed him. This is a little too disrespectful of me. Wu Ming looked at Luo Hao strangely. Then Wu Ming spoke. Then, do you want to fight? Boom. It was a sunny day, but suddenly there was a muffled thunder outside. Well, it was Wu Ming's thunder god incarnation. Then let me experience the skills of the king of disobedience from a foreign country. At this moment, Wu Ming only had one thought. Sure enough, godslayers were a bunch of violent maniacs. Chapter 190. In the wilderness, Wu Ming and Luo Hao stood opposite each other. This was Wu Ming's relic, the staff of Anzi Ergen, the 8th level of Nasarik's underground tomb, the wilderness. Previously, Wu Ming had said that he had an inherent enchantment, and that he wanted to fight inside. At that time, Luo Hao had even mocked Wu Ming for being considerate of the living beings and plants of Mount Lu. Furthermore, it was a taboo for a soldier to go deep into enemy territory alone. Luo Hao naturally wouldn't make such a mistake. However, Wu Ming used one sentence to change Luo Hao's mind. If you're afraid, then forget it. I'm the leader of the sect of 5 purgatories, the king of martial arts in Jiangnan. How could I be afraid of you? With this thought in mind, Luo Hao accepted Wu Ming's suggestion and came to the wilderness of the 8th level of Nasarik. Looking at the slim and graceful Luo Hao standing not far away, Wu Ming shook his head with a smile. As expected, the godslayers were all simple-minded people. Whether it was Salvatore Vauban or Luo Hao, which one of them was not particularly easy to deal with in some way. King of disobedience, are you laughing at me? Seeing Wu Ming's smile, Luo Hao thought that Wu Ming was laughing at her because of her hesitation before entering Wu Ming's inherent enchantment. Wu Ming shook his head. How could that be? Lord Hierarch, I was just thinking that you're also a cute guy. However, this angered Luo Hao once again. You have humiliated me again and again. Even if we are both kings, you cannot blame me for being so presumptuous. Finished speaking, Luo Hao started chanting. War in the south of the city, death in the north of the country, death in the wild does not bury the crow to eat. For my sake, I call the crow. And for the guest hero. This was the power that Luo Hao had seized after killing the 2 Buddhist benevolent kings of Aqua, the secret Buddha king and the Narayan Jianjun king. As Luo Hao chanted, golden particles appeared around her. Luo Hao called this power Vajra divine art, and the sage parliament called it the power. The golden particles attached to Luo Hao's body. In an instant, Luo Hao stomped on the ground, and the ground cracked like a spider web. Luo Hao then rushed towards Wu Ming. Just in time. Wu Ming also used his speech spirit when he saw this. I am the strongest, and I hold all victory in my hands. Be it human or demon. I am a person who can defeat all enemies, and I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. Giants with unparalleled godly power, please help me. As the words were spoken, the long needle on the stone plate in Wu Ming's heart pointed to 2 o'clock, and the giant stone carving lit up. Wuming's entire body emitted a golden light. Similarly, he also shot towards Luo Hao, who was charging over. Then the two of them clashed, one with a fist and the other with a palm. Boom! Their fists collided, and the resulting shockwave shattered the ground around them. Just like the first time, Miko-sama and Luo Hao started attacking each other with their fists and palms, releasing a large amount of mana. Wu Ming retreated, his legs leaving 2 scratches on the ground, leaving an ear-piercing sound. Wu Ming moved the place that was attacked by Luo Hao and grinned. As expected of the king of Wuxia, Luo Hao, your punches and kicks are indeed above mine. That's right, it was obvious that Wu Ming was at a disadvantage in this first round of confrontation. Because Luo Hao had 1-inch punch, the huge palm force was like a picture. Wu Ming's defense was nothing, and the damage was directly transmitted to Wu Ming's internal organs. Although Wu Ming was not seriously injured, the damage was not small. Don't belittle yourself. What I just used is my exclusive 12 Flying Phoenix Divine Palm. You can still move back and forth freely under my attack. Your martial arts is enough to see. Although Luo Hao had the upper hand, she also suffered some losses. Wu Ming's fists, which contain the strength of a giant, knocked her down a few times, but Luo Hao's great strength Vajra Divine Art not only increased her strength, but also increased her defense. Therefore, although the giant incarnation with the supreme divine power attacked Luo Hao, because of the strong Vajra Divine Art's defense, Luo Hao only suffered a light injury compared to Wu Ming. Wu Ming smiled arrogantly. Then let's start the second round. After that, Wu Ming disappeared. Luo Hao's eyes suddenly shrank, and she quickly turned around and attacked somewhere. Boom! Luo Hao was hit hard by Wu Ming. Wu Ming, who lifted his lightning speed, stood in the place where Luo Hao stood before. Wu Ming just used the power of the phoenix. The reason why he didn't chant the spell was because of the short pointer on the stone plate in Wu Ming's heart. Now Wu Ming understood why he had 2 pointers. The long and short pointers didn't just mean that Wu Ming could use the power of 2 avatars at the same time. These 2 pointers also had other uses. Wu Ming found that as long as the short pointer pointed to the authority, Wu Ming could instantly use it without chanting any spell. But the instant was just like the literal meaning of the picture, only a few short seconds. Just now, on Wu Ming's heartstone plate, the short pointer pointed to the phoenix stone plate. In an instant, the short pointer emitted a golden light, and the phoenix stone plate instantly became super bright. Then Wu Ming entered the state of lightning speed. Now the stone short pointer had become red, as if the picture was overloaded. But after a few seconds, the short pointer returned to its original stone color. It can be said that the short pointer can make the avatar instantly burst. Although this power can only be used for a few seconds, in a fight between experts, the outcome can be decided in a breath. And the cooldown time is only a few seconds. To put it simply, the cooldown time of this skill is super short. Before becoming Wu Ming's noble phantasm, there were all kinds of restrictions. Before using it, various conditions must be unlocked. But now, after becoming Wu Ming's noble phantasm's 12 avatars, not only did it have no restrictions, it could be used at will, and its power could be compared to any independent authority. Wu Ming's 12 avatars required chanting, which was a drawback. But with the short pointer's instantaneous burst ability, and the cooldown time was only a few seconds, it could be said that the 12 avatars was already a near-perfect authority. Luo Hao gently removed the force and gracefully landed on the ground. Wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, Luo Hao smiled. Attacking with speed when I'm at a disadvantage is a wise choice. Wu Ming did not belittle himself just because he attacked Luo Hao. The moment before he attacked Luo Hao captured his high-speed movement. It can be said that basically, as long as one is a warrior, they can capture high-speed movements, especially people who are fighting on the battlefield. For example, Wu Ming saw Lancelot before. As a military god, Lancelot can naturally capture high-speed moving objects. Neza should also be able to, but that is before he enters the state of 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya. After all, after entering the state of 8-armed, 3-headed Dharmakaya, Neza becomes like a berserker. After thinking for a while, Wu Ming took out a white holy spear from the golden ripples. He was ready to use the martial arts obtained from another real godslayer, to compete with Luo Hao. Leader, please don't blame me for being shameless. After all, I'm good at weapons. Of course I won't blame you. Fists and feet have no eyes. On the battlefield, there is only the means to kill the enemy. There is no such thing as being shameless. After that, Luo Hao's body emitted a golden light, and a golden transparent material similar to gloves wrapped Luo Hao's hands. This was the flexible performance of the mighty King Kong divine art. If the previous mighty King Kong divine art was used as a defense, now it was used as a weapon. The golden particles turned into gloves, which was better suited for hand-to-hand combat. Coming! Wu Ming shouted and rushed toward Luo Hao with his spear. Chapter 191. Wu Ming held Yggdrasil in his hand and Luo Hao, who was wearing a gauntlet. Luo Hao continuously used 12 Flying Phoenix Divine Palm, which was extremely powerful. Wu Ming used the god-killing spear he learned from Skaha, and its power was not weaker than Luo Hao's. The two of them didn't care about their magical power consumption, and the magical power they released was comparable to the magic release skill. Coupled with the fact that both of them were godslayers, Wu Ming and Luo Hao could be said to have lost their minds. No, that was not accurate. It should be said that they lost their cool. When the two of them almost calmed down, the two of them found that Wu Ming's barrier was full of holes. As for Wu Ming and Luo Hao, it could be said that they were being honest with each other. Their clothes were almost completely tattered. Wu Ming and Luo Hao both blushed. Luo Hao was a traditional Chinese woman. She quickly turned around to cover her delicate body. As her figure flickered, a new Han Chinese dress was put on Luo Hao's body. Wu Ming also took out a set of clothes from the golden ripple and put it on. Luo Hao turned around, her slightly red cheeks, and the fluttering silk made Luo Hao look like a fairy, which made Wu Ming look at her. I didn't expect your spear technique to be so powerful. Judging from your moves, you must have learned from a famous master. Luo Hao said to cover up her embarrassment. Thank you for the compliment. Sect leader is indeed the king of Wuxia. Wu Ming also followed Luo Hao's meaning, ignoring the embarrassment between the two of them just now. My master is Skaha, and I can use swords, spears, and halberds freely. My master asked her to teach me this set of spear technique, and now I have my own rhythm. Of course, learning couldn't just copy without making progress. The reason why the student surpassed the master was that the disciple understood deeper things from what the master taught. Speaking of Skaha, Luo Hao was interested. Could it be that queen of the demonic realm, Skaha, who has killed countless gods? Yes, but my master is best at spear, and I am best at sword. Wu Ming put Yggdrasil back into the golden ripple, and took out meteor silver from it. Luo Hao's eyes narrowed slightly. Could this be the other meteor sword, X-Silver, that could rival the legendary Excalibur? Yes. Later, seeing that Luo Hao seemed to know a lot about meteor silver, Wu Ming asked Luo Hao. Sect leader, am I famous? Luo Hao looked at Wu Ming and fell into silence. After a while Rozenz's looked, and Luo looks, ants looks. The reason why Wu Ming asked this question was that he wanted to know what kind of myths were related to him in this world. For some reason, Wu Ming didn't find any records about himself in the myths and legends of King Arthur. Even if there were, they were all minor details, and the content was not complete. The records about King Arthur, and even the records about the Night Villa were vague. The only thing he found was the official history that was slightly more credible. Wu Ming and Luo Hao sat opposite each other. Looking at Luo Hao, who was pouring tea for him, Wu Ming was a little surprised. Looking at it now, Luo Hao looks like a beautiful and quiet girl. It's impossible to connect her with the fierce person who fought so fiercely with me in the 8th layer of the wilderness. For some reason, Luo Hao's attitude toward Wu Ming changed a little since they came out of the enchantment. Whether it was her tone, attitude, or behavior, it was much more intimate. Please. Luo Hao smiled and placed the teacup in front of Wu Ming. Wu Ming picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then, Wu Ming looked at Luo Hao and waited for her to explain the problem. Luo Hao also poured herself a cup of tea and began to tell the story. Ming, as the god of disobedience, became the god slayer. Because of this, he gained the support of humans and was worshipped as a king. Although Wu Ming wasn't used to Luo Hao calling him Ming, he didn't say anything. Although Ming has always called himself Wu Ming, Ming's real name was revealed during the battle with Woban. Villo there answered, King Arthur's strongest knight, King Arthur's mentor, and a good friend of the great magician Merlin. Wu Ming nodded in his heart. Luo Hao was right. No matter which sentence it was, in some sense it was correct in this world. But Luo Hao looked at Wu Ming seriously. Wu Ming also looked at Luo Hao's pretty face. Although I don't know why, Ming's words and actions don't resemble ancient people at all. Instead, he's somewhat similar to the mortals of today. Luo Hao picked up the teacup again and took a sip. But without a doubt, Ming has attracted the attention of magicians from all over the world. Luo Hao put down the teacup and continued. Because King Arthur's story isn't true. Someone deliberately adapted it. Adapted it. Wu Ming was surprised. After all, this was a big deal. Yes, but I didn't know much about the details. Wu Ming couldn't help but feel a little regretful when Luo Hao said this. Wu Ming already understood why he was so famous. There was a law in this world. Ancient powerful beings were defined as gods by humans, and were bound into myths by human curses. As for new myths made up by humans, they would give birth to new gods. Logically speaking, a god like the Villo with a vague record of the myths shouldn't be able to be summoned. But Wu Ming, who used the Villo as his real name, was summoned. Wu Ming had all the information related to the Villo in the myths, such as weapons and skills. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they were exactly the same. Many people also suspected that Wu Ming wasn't a Villo, but another god with the title of a Villo. Otherwise, why would he call himself Wu Ming and not a Villo? In short, there was a lot of controversy regarding Wu Ming. As a result, all the information about Wu Ming, about the Villo, had been spread around the world. Even sect leader Luo Hao, who didn't like gossip, knew about Wu Ming. Alright, although it was also because of the information gathering. I don't know the specific situation. In short, Ming is now in existence that everyone knows. After that, Luo Hao picked up the teacup again, and began to taste it carefully. Looks like I'll have to ask Alice about this, Wu Ming thought. Thank you, sect leader. Wu Ming thanked Luo Hao. Luo Hao shook her head gently. Just call me Cui Lian. Luo Hao smiled again. Oh, okay Cui Lian. Wu Ming smiled awkwardly. Wu Ming now felt that this Wuxia King Luo Hao, who was called a demon, wasn't that difficult to get along with. And it was just that the way Ming and Cui Lian were called was a bit awkward. By the way, I will be going to Japan in a few days. At that time, please don't hesitate to teach me. Since we're done talking, I won't send you off. I'll take my leave first. Luo Hao suddenly interrupted Wu Ming's thoughts. After that, Luo Hao used God's limbs and left. As expected, none of the God Slayers are normal. After leaving Lushan, Wu Ming boarded the plane to Japan. Sitting in the private room of the plane, Wu Ming still couldn't forget about Luo Hao. Of course, it didn't mean that Wu Ming fell in love with Luo Hao. She called me over and fought with me when I mentioned it. In the end, she said some strange things to herself. Sigh, Wu Ming supported his chin with his right hand and looked out the window in boredom. Luo Hao actually left Lushan. What is she doing in Japan? He shook his head again and stopped thinking about it. Speaking of which, why didn't Erica and the others call me? A shattered piece of a mobile phone lay quietly on Mount Lu. Chapter 192. At a certain airport in Japan, Wu Ming's plane landed. Wu Ming walked down from the plane. Finally, I'm in Japan, Wu Ming exclaimed. As soon as he got off the plane, a golden dragon horn ornament flew over using an invisibility spell. Wu Ming, who had a connection with it, could naturally sense the distance between him and his relic. The dragon horn flew to Wu Ming's head and settled down. Master. Although Colos's voice was still cold, there was a hint of joy in it. Welcome back, Colos. Wu Ming touched the dragon horn and greeted her happily. Yes, I'm back, Master. My king, are you okay? At this moment, Liliana ran over worriedly from somewhere. Her figure was like a swift and beautiful bird, extremely agile. It's okay, Lily. It's just the god of disobedience. I've sent it back to the myths. Wu Ming shook his head and said with a chuckle. Seeing this, Lily breathed a sigh of relief, then said speechlessly, "Only you would say that." Wu Ming shrugged his shoulders and rubbed his nose. He didn't say anything. "So Lily, you have to believe in our king. How can a mere god of disobedience be a match for my master, Erica Brantery?" Erica's proud voice reached Wu Ming and Liliana's ears. Wu Ming turned his head and looked. It was still golden hair like the sun, like a beautiful lioness. Erica walked over gracefully. "Of course I believe in the king. Even if I do, I can't help but worry. You, on the other hand, have been calm since you got off the plane. Don't you know how to worry for our master?" Liliana immediately retorted. "I knew His Majesty would be fine. This is the tacit understanding between His Majesty and me, Lily." Erica pretended to be shy. You vixen." Liliana's face was red, not knowing whether it was anger or embarrassment. "Please call me the beautiful lioness," Erica provoked. "All right, Erica, stop bullying Lily." Wu Ming chuckled. Liliana was undoubtedly qualified as a knight, but her heart was quite pure. It could be said that she was the complete opposite of Erica. Both of them. The two prodigies are really favored by the king. However, I would like to ask the king to leave first. It is not polite to talk with the king here. A rather leisurely voice sounded. Wu Ming looked at the speaker. It was an ordinary-looking man in a suit and glasses. Although he was dressed in a suit, the man always exuded a leisurely aura. However, Wu Ming had a feeling that this was an old fox. No, it should be said that every magician was a sly old fox. Other than those who were brought up by seniors like Liliana, including paladins like Paul Brantley and Princess Alice, all magicians were sly old foxes without exception. Because those who were not old foxes were no longer in this world. The truth was so cruel. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Kaneji Takuma, an agent of the official Japanese state organ, the Historical Compilation Committee. Nice to meet you, Lord King of Disobedience. Mr. Kanzui was one of the people who came to welcome the king after Lily and I came to Japan. I didn't hide anything. Instead, I told him about encountering the god of disobedience on the way and how the king went to hunt it. Erica flipped her hair and said leisurely. Wu Ming nodded. Erica was right. Instead of deceiving him, it was better to tell him the truth directly. It was not that she thought highly of Kaneji Takuma, but the news that Wu Ming killed the god of disobedience would definitely be known by the whole world. Besides, there was no need to deceive a Japanese magician. The History Editing Committee was the official Japanese magic organization that protected Wanriku Yoli. Just call me Wu Ming. Then, I'll have to trouble Mr. Kaneji to lead the way. Wu Ming smiled. In fear and trepidation, Lord Wu Ming, please come with me. Although Kaneji Takuma was very respectful, he still looked casual. Kaneji Takuma led Wu Ming and the others into a car. Kaneji Takuma sat in the driver's seat, smiled apologetically, and then said, "Because we know that Lord Wu Ming doesn't like luxury, we only arranged for me and a small car. Please forgive us. I thought this was the Japanese magician's provocation to our lord, Mr. Kaneji." Erica sat in the passenger seat and smiled calmly. How could that be? We have absolutely no intention of disrespecting the king. Please understand. Although he said so and his tone was full of apology, Kaneji Takuma still looked calm and composed. Perhaps this was the reason why the Japanese sent Kaneji Takuma to negotiate with him. Wu Ming thought so. But he felt that the Japanese seemed to be confident that they could remain unscathed even after offending the Godslayer. As expected, the last king is related to Japan. Wu Ming thought to himself. At this time, Kaneji Takuma spoke again. We specially arranged a luxurious ancient English building for the king's arrival, and there will be new followers to serve the king later. New followers? Wu Ming raised his eyebrows. New followers. Erica and Liliana were also a little confused. However, Kaneji Takuma continued as if he didn't see it. Because this is the first time the king, Miss Blountry, and Miss Kranikar came to Japan, we were afraid that the two of you wouldn't be able to take good care of the king, so the higher-ups specially arranged new followers to serve the king. Liliana thought about it carefully and found that there was no problem. Erica glanced at Wu Ming. After Wu Ming nodded, Erica asked a question. Then, what are the number, gender, and function of the new followers? However, Kaneji Takuma smiled. Don't worry, Miss Blountry. There are only 2 followers, and they are both women. One of them is someone the king knows. Someone he knows? Erica and Liliana couldn't help but look at Wuming. Erica and Liliana were curious about when Wuming. Someone I know? Wuming said with some surprise. Could it be? Wuming muttered as he thought of something. The car stopped in front of a luxurious ancient English mansion. Please come in. I believe the new followers the king knows have arrived. Kaneji Takuma led Wuming and the other 2 into the mansion. A beautiful girl with chestnut-colored hair wearing a white top and green bottom, which costume was cleaning the courtyard. As expected, it's you, Wanli Guyoli. Wuming said as if he had expected it. Huh. Wanli Guyoli was shocked. Chapter 193. In the living room of the villa, Wuming sat on the sofa while Erica and Liliana stood beside Wuming. Even so, Wanli Guyoli still poured 3 cups of tea. Because Wanli Guyoli had met the king before, he could be considered a half-acquaintance. Moreover, he had a high-level talent ability, spirit vision, which could be of great help to the king. Therefore, Wanli Guyoli was one of Wuming's followers in Japan. After saying that the other follower is already on the way, Wuming Ganchi left leisurely. This is spiritual tea picked from the land with abundant spiritual energy. Please enjoy. Wuming picked up the teacup and took a sip. His eyes lit up. It's really good. The taste is comparable to the spiritual tea that Sualian poured for me. Is that so? It's good that you like it. Wanli Guyoli breathed a sigh of relief, his little face flushed. Oh, did Lord Wuming communicate with the hierarch? They called so intimately. Was it before? I remember that the place where we met the god of disobedience was indeed China. Erica narrowed her eyes and looked at Wuming. My king, please have some self-respect. Although Liliana had only said a simple sentence, her slightly red cheeks proved that she was not calm in her heart. Ahem, the 2 of you don't have to stand. Quickly sit down and taste the tea that Yuli brewed for you. Wuming coughed and ordered. Wanli Guyoli was a little surprised to be called directly by his name. Seeing this, Wuming explained, Sorry, I like to call others by their names. If you feel offended, I can call you Wanli Gu. Honorable Demon King, please forgive the god of disobedience. If I offended you, please only punish me and don't affect the surroundings. Wanli Guyoli immediately sat down and apologized. Wuming was a little helpless. Did he have to be cruel because he was a god slayer? He was not like Woban Luohao. Don't worry, I won't punish you, nor will I do anything to the surroundings. Hurry up and get up. While speaking, Wuming used the short pointer to activate the magician avatar. The incarnation of the magician who used to be a young man, had the ability of the young man, incarnation to control humans. After Wuming finished speaking, an invisible force controlled Wanli Guyoli, causing him to uncontrollably stand up. Sigh. After contacting the incarnation, Wuming looked at Wanli Guyoli, who wanted to kneel down again, and took a sip of tea. If you still kneel, then I will continue to use my authority. This time Wanli Guyu supported his body and did not kneel down. Seriously, Wuming, you're really rude, Erica said helplessly. Don't worry. The king waiting for me in front of you is the easiest to talk to among the 7 kings. There's no need to be reserved. After a moment of silence, Wanli Guyoli nodded his head skeptically. Hurry up and sit down and drink the tea. It will lose its flavor if it gets cold, Wuming urged and took another sip of tea. Then he glanced at Wanli Guyoli. You 2. Sit down and talk. Wuming had no choice but to order Wanli Guyoli to sit down. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Excuse me. After Erica and Liliana said goodbye, the 2 also sat down and tasted their tea. It's really the best. Is Wuming's taste too high? He actually said it's not bad. Erica took a sip and was also surprised. It's delicious. Thank you very much, Wanli Guyoli. Liliana thanked him solemnly. No, it's okay, Miss Kranikar. Wanli Guyoli, who was still blushing because Wuming called him by his name, quickly waved his hand and said, Please call me Liliana. There's no need to call me Kranikar, Liliana said seriously. Me too. Just call me Erica, Erica said gracefully. Okay, please take care of me. Miss Erica, Miss Liliana. Please call me Yoli. Please. Wanli-gu Yoli bowed slightly. Of course, Yoli, Erica said with a smile. Okay, please take care of me, Miss Yuli. Just call me Wuming. Don't call me the king of disobedience. How can I do that? That's too rude. Then, under the gaze of King Wuming, Wanli-gu Yoli nodded. Then Erica raised her doubts. Yoli, when you met Wuming just now you looked shocked. Don't you know that the king you are going to meet is Wuming? This was also what Wuming and Liliana were puzzled about. That Mr. Gonzai told me that he needed me to serve the king who's coming to Japan, but he didn't tell me who it was, so. Wanli-gu Yoli said softly. At this moment, Wuming put down the teacup in his hand. Then let me ask you, are you willing to be my follower, Wanli-gu Yoli? When Wuming said this, the place instantly fell into an awkward silence. Erica and Liliana did not say anything. They understood Wuming's intention. Don't worry. If you're not willing, I can let you go back. I believe that Wuming Gonzai and the official history committee behind him won't disobey my orders. At this moment, Wuming's kingly aura as a godslayer was unconsciously released. Wanli-gu Yoli raised his head slightly and looked at the king before him. After a moment of thought, Wanli-gu Yoli spoke. I want to stay. Is that so? Wuming didn't say anything. Can I know why? Then Wuming asked. After a brief thought, Wanli-gu Yoli explained. Because I have the responsibility to manage the king's daily life, and watch over the king to prevent the king from doing anything that would damage the king's dignity. When he said this, Wanli-gu Yoli's face was serious. Wuming was a little helpless. You're actually afraid that I'll cause damage to Japan? Yes, the Devil King has the constitution of causing trouble. No matter which king it is, it's the same. Then, Wanli-gu Yoli stared at Wuming. I have to take this responsibility and watch over you. Wuming laughed involuntarily. You really dare to say that, Miss Miko? Wuming smiled. Wanli-gu Yoli realized that what he had just done was an offense to the king. His face was full of despair. Lord Devil King, please only punish me. Don't involve Japan. However, before Wanli-gu Yoli could finish speaking, Wuming interrupted him. There should be a limit to your stupid words, Wanli-gu Yoli. At this moment, Wuming's expression became extremely terrifying. This time, Wanli-gu Yoli's face was full of despair. Well, but you met me. If it were Marquis Wuming or Cult Master Luo Hao, you'd be dead by now. Wuming's expression instantly softened. You should know that not every king has a good temper like me. I'm doing this for your own good. Then Wuming looked at Erica and Liliana, who had been silent all this time. All right, let's call it a day. Erica and Liliana, remember to protect Wanli-gu Yoli. She's now the king's follower. After saying that, Wuming left the living room. Yoli, congratulations. You've been recognized by the king. Erica smiled kindly. He's recognized. Wanli-gu Yoli was still a little confused. Lord Wuming said that just now because he was worried about your safety. After all, we came to Japan this time to do something, Liliana explained. Actually, Wuming's personality is quite kind. He doesn't look like a king at all. However, he can show the king's side at the critical moment, Erica said. That's why we decided to follow the king, Liliana added. Is that so? Wanli-gu Yoli was at a loss. All right, we'll tell you more about Wuming when we have time. It's almost dinner time now. Let's go prepare the king's dinner. Erica looked proud. You speak as if you've cooked before. I'm the one who prepares the food for the king. And you often use the king's kindness to snatch food from the king. You despicable vixen. Liliana's face was full of anger. It's because Lily's cooking is too delicious. Also, once I'm hungry, I can't help but say some strange things. Erica had a sly look on her face. Like on a night when the clouds covered the moon, he came to my room or something like that. You, where did you know that? Liliana's face was red as she shouted with tears in her eyes. That's a secret. Wah. Looking at Erica and Liliana who were playing around, Wanli Guyoli was slightly relieved. There was actually another reason why Wanli Guyoli decided to stay, and that was because Lord Wuming once saved me. Chapter 194. On the second day after Wuming settled down, a guest came to the villa where he was staying. It was a beautiful girl in a Japanese school uniform with long black hair. Next to her was a long object wrapped in a string. There was a trace of divine power leaking out of the long object, and Wuming sensed it. It's probably a god relic, Wuming thought to himself. Then, this beautiful girl knelt in front of Wuming in the form of a sitting position under the earth, and said something that could be misunderstood and shocked. Nice to meet you. You must be Master Wuming. I'm Huina from the Qingqiu courtyard, your concubine. Please take care of me. Huina, why are you here? And what's with being a concubine? Wanli Guyoli asked in surprise. It seemed like the both of them knew each other, and had a good relationship. Yoli is here to be Master King's concubine too? Huina from the Qingqiu courtyard, who was kneeling on the ground, lifted her head and revealed her beautiful face. She looked at Wanli Guyoli. And no, why would I be a concubine? Wanli Guyoli's face was flushed and her tone was stiff. Is that so? That's a pity. I thought I could fight the European harem team with you. Wait. You've been saying things that I don't understand since the beginning. What's with the concubine and the European harem team? Wuming asked in confusion. Aren't the two ladies next to you your harem? Huina from the Qingqiu courtyard said something that made him speechless. Her gaze was calm as if she was asking if he had eaten today. Huina from the Qingqiu courtyard then continued. As we all know, Princess Alice of Europe and England is your first concubine. Erica of Red Bronze and Black Cross is your second concubine. And Liliana of Red Bronze and Black Cross is your third concubine. If the fourth concubine, Guyoli, is included, the harem is very obvious, isn't it? Huina of the Qingqiu courtyard tilted her head in confusion. I told you I'm not. Wanli Guyoli tried his best to explain, but Qingqiu courtyard Huina ignored him. Instead, she stared at Wuming. Wuming could tell from her red eyes, which were similar to his, that Qingqiu courtyard Huina did not harbor any evil thoughts. She was pure. In other words, the other party really thought so from the bottom of his heart. How pure must her heart be to be so gullible? Wuming complained. Wuming helplessly touched his face and began to explain. That's where you're wrong. Erica and Liliana are my knights. If I have to name them, they're more like confidants than lovers, much less harem. Erica and Liliana also nodded, indicating that they agreed with Wuming. Excellent men were indeed attractive to women, but it didn't mean that Erica and Liliana had to be Wuming's harem. At the very most, Erica and Wuming had been in contact for less than a month, and Liliana had been in contact for less than a week. It could be seen that Wuming had not been in contact with Erica and Liliana for a long time. For now, they only had a slight favorable impression of each other. Let's not talk about the future for the time being. Right now, the two of them had a good impression of Wuming as if they were relatives and friends who had been together for a long time. It was not like they liked each other, let alone lovers. Harem talk was even more nonsensical. As for the matter with Alice, that was just a simple prank of mine. I didn't do anything rude to Alice. Erica knows this. Erica nodded in agreement with Wuming. So you're saying that the king doesn't have a wife? Qingqiu courtyard Huina had an expression that said, I see, I'm shocked. That's right, that's the case. Wuming nodded. However, Qingqiu courtyard Huina said something even more shocking. In that case, let's make Huina the king's first wife. Wuming looked at Qingqiu courtyard Huina's innocent smile. He really did not know why she would say such a shocking topic. I say you're almost done, Erica said at that moment. Don't you think it's silly to talk about being a concubine or the first wife? Erica mocked. Although Erica's words are inappropriate, I agree with her. This is really too impure, Liliana said righteously with a slightly red face. I also think it's a little rude. Huina has become a little strange. Wanli Guyoli's face was also red as he whispered. Even Yuli said that. Qingqiu Courtyard Huina was shocked. I understand. Just as Wu Ming was about to catch his breath, Qingqiu Courtyard Huina said something shocking again. Then let Huina defeat all of you and become the king's first wife. With that, Qingqiu Courtyard Huina reached out to the long object beside her. Stop it! Wu Ming suddenly exploded and gave Qingqiu Courtyard Huina a knock on the head. It hurts. Qingqiu Courtyard Huina covered the place where Wu Ming had knocked her head. With tears in the corners of her eyes, she looked at Wu Ming with an aggrieved expression. Seeing this cute scene, Wu Ming immediately swallowed the words of reprimand that he was about to say. In short, you will now follow me as my follower. That's it. Wu Ming sighed and said tiredly, yes, I will definitely work hard to become the king's first wife. Looking at Qingqiu Courtyard Huina, who had another strange target, Wu Ming sighed and didn't say anything else. Alright, let's get down to business. I've already told Yuli about this matter. Are you willing to become my follower? Moreover, if you don't want to be my follower, I can let you go, and the Japanese authorities will have nothing to say. Wu Ming raised the question again. You're right. However, Qingqiu Courtyard Huina didn't think for a moment like Wanli Guyoli. Instead, she directly said without thinking. Huina didn't want to become His Majesty's follower. Grandfather told Huina to become His Majesty's follower, so Huina came. Hearing Qingqiu Courtyard Huina's words, Wu Ming wanted to say something, but she continued. But I'm now interested in the king, so I've decided to stay. Looking at Qingqiu Courtyard Huina's serious expression, Wu Ming swallowed the words he wanted to say. Sure enough, the purer she was, the stronger she was. Qingqiu Courtyard Huina's incomparable naivety almost made Wu Ming suffer internal injuries. So that's it for the time being. Then Wu Ming looked at the long object beside Qingqiu Courtyard Huina. If it's you, you don't need protection, right? Wu Ming said. Of course, Your Majesty. Huina is Japan's first witch Tachibana. Chapter 195. Speaking of that, Wanrefuri Furu also spoke. Wu Ming, Sama, we shaman can achieve the effect of cultivation by staying away from the world, so Huina will not stay in a place where people gather for a long time. She has been practicing in the mountains since she was a child, so as to achieve a clear mind. As for me, because I still need to go to school and take care of my sister, I can't live in the mountains like Huina. Later, Qingqiu Courtyard Huina added. At Huina's level, I can capture objects that are moving at high speed. Also, my hearing is very good. I can tell who is walking by the sound of footsteps. Huina crossed her hands on her lower abdomen, looking like she was stroking a child. Moreover, Huina is also a spirit summoner. After Wanrefuri Furu said that, Qingqiu Courtyard Huina smiled slightly, but that smile was quite proud. Spirit summoner? Erica and Liliana muttered, and they seemed to know the word. Spirit summoner? Is it someone who can make a higher level of power come to her body for her own use? Wu Ming guessed that spirit summoner might be similar to the job card. Yes, His Majesty is right. Spirit summoner is a spirit summoner who can use Grandpa's power. It's because of this power that Hina can become Japan's #1 Tadaira witch. Kiikyu Courtyard's face was full of pride, just like a child. That also proved that Qingqiu Courtyard Huina's mind was simple. She would do whatever she wanted, and her inner thoughts would be shown on her face. However, when Wu Ming heard Grandpa's power, his eyes lit up. About Spirit Summoner, I have seen it in historical data. It's a talent that is more advanced than spirit vision. Erica said with a serious face. Moreover, the shaman who can borrow God's power must stay in nature for a long time, not be contaminated by the secular world, and keep her body clean, otherwise, she will lose the ability to invite God to come. Erica looked at Wu Ming and blinked. If that's the case, it seems that Japan is ready to bleed, my lord. Wu Ming naturally shrugged indifferently. Wu Ming naturally knew what Erica meant, and from Qingqiu Courtyard Huina's words, it was not difficult to judge the meaning of Japan's side. It was nothing more than using a honey trap to tie Wu Ming and Japan together, or let Qingqiu Courtyard Huina follow Wu Ming. Since Erica became Wu Ming's knight, the status of Red Copper Black Cross rose, instantly rose to the top in Europe. It was also because of this that Liliana could be said to have been gifted to Marquis Warban by the Black Bronze Cross. However, Marquis Wooming didn't take care of Red Copper and Black Cross's wish. After that, Liliana was taken in by Wooming, and Red Copper and Black Cross rose in status as well, on par with Red Copper and Black Cross. Wooming didn't bring anything substantial to the two organizations, but it should be known that Wooming was both a god slayer and a god of disobedience. Being under such a person's command would undoubtedly bring greater benefits. It was very likely that Japan wanted to give Qingqiu Courtyard Huina to Wooming in the same way that Red Copper and Black Cross had given Liliana to Marquis Wooming. They wanted to obtain Wooming's protection and gain more benefits. I quite like your personality, and it's not impossible to take you in as a shaman. Wooming stroked his chin and pondered. But Liliana and Erica seemed to want to say something, but Wooming interrupted. I have my own ideas, trust me. Erica and Liliana looked at each other and nodded. Is there anything you need Huina to do, Your Majesty? Qingqiu Courtyard Huina had an excited expression. Don't worry, Your Majesty. No matter what difficulties there are, Huina will overcome them one by one. You can't be so sure, Miss Huina. Wooming smiled. Then Wooming stated his request. I want to see your grandfather. Huh? Huina's grandfather? After that, Huina left as she had to ask for instructions. Wooming, Erica, Liliana, and Wan Liguyuli started discussing. Why does Lord Wooming want to see Huina's grandfather? Wan Liguyuli raised his doubts. Isn't that simple, Yuli? Erica smiled gracefully. Qingqiu Courtyard's Huina is a descent warlock, and Huina herself said that she can descend the power of her grandfather onto herself. That's enough to explain the problem. The power she summoned is the power of a god, which means that Qingqiu Courtyard has a god grandfather, Liliana added. Huh. Wan Liguyuli seemed to be shocked. After all, it was a little unbelievable that her best friend's grandfather was a god. Maybe that's why Japan isn't afraid of the god slayers. Also, I have a feeling that Huina's grandfather might have something to do with us coming to Japan. Wooming's words caused Erica and Liliana to start thinking that, although I don't know the purpose of Lord Wooming's visit to Japan, if possible, please let me help, Wan Liguyuli said worriedly. Wooming and the other two were stunned at first, then relieved. Of course. Otherwise I wouldn't have asked you to stay, Wooming said with a smile. Yoli has a high-level spirit vision that can provide a lot of help. It's much more useful than Lily's spirit vision, Erica said calmly. Doi. What? What does this have to do with me? Besides, spirit vision is an innate ability. Whether it's strong or not depends entirely on one's innate talent. If that's the case, Erica, who doesn't have spirit vision, is completely useless. Liliana lectured Erica with a displeased look on her face. In that case, the king who doesn't have spirit vision is also useless in your words. As a knight of the king, how dare you judge the king so wantonly? You're really bold, Lily, Erica said slyly. How could that be? I was just talking about you. Why did you have to involve Lord Wooming? You despicable female fox. Liliana was so angry that her face turned red. Miss Erica and Miss Liliana have such a good relationship, Wan Liguyuli said enviously. At that moment, Wooming spoke. Then slowly blend in. If it's you, you can definitely do it, Wooming said with a smile as he looked at the witch Yuan who had the spirit of sacrificing herself to protect others. Wan Liguyuli was stunned at first, then smiled and nodded. Yes, I understand, Lord Wooming. Chapter 196. After Katsura left, she replied to Wooming the next day. Grandpa said that His Majesty can come to Grandpa at any time, but Grandpa will not provide any help. Whether he can come or not depends on Wooming's own ability. Then Katsura stayed in Wooming's villa. Because Wanriguyoli's parents were basically not at home due to professional reasons, the burden of taking care of his sister was handed over to Wanriguyoli. In addition to going to school, Wanriguyoli basically stayed in the shrine or took care of his sister. Now because of the arrival of Wooming, Wanraguyoli did not go to the shrine much except for the necessary school. Moreover, his place of residence had changed from his home to Wuming's villa. Because his home was some distance away from Wuming's residence, Wanraguyoli became quite busy. During this period, Alice, who was far away in Europe, said that she would come to Japan with the purpose of helping Wuming solve the matter of the last king. Because the prophecy of the last king that Alice saw with spirit vision was something far in the future, Wuming was not very anxious to solve this matter. Therefore, Wuming contacted Sebastian and asked him to meet Alice and escort her to Japan. After a few days of leisure, Wuming sat in the courtyard and meditated. In the Qingqiu courtyard, Huina knelt beside him. Liliana was making lunch in the kitchen. After Erica returned, she walked to the side and waited quietly. Wuming exhaled a long breath, ended his meditation, and then looked at Erica. What's wrong, Erica? In the past few days, except for Wanraguyoli who needed to go to school, Erica, Liliana, and Katsura were unusually idle. Katsura practiced the witch training every day, and then accompanied Wuming, saying that it was convenient for His Majesty to order around. As for Erica and Lilia, apart from their daily cultivation, they would sometimes accompany Wuming, but most of the time, it was Erica who took the reluctant Lilia out shopping. Speaking of which, because Huina from the Qingqiu courtyard had said that the king only needed to eat the food she prepared, she had angered Liliana, who was Liliana's cook. After the two of them argued with each other and Liliana's persuasion, the two of them decided that each of them would take care of Liliana's and everyone's meals on different days. Today was the day Liliana was preparing food. That was why Huina from the clear autumn courtyard was by Wuming's side. Early in the morning, someone from the history editing committee seemed to have something to tell Wuming, and wanted to invite Wuming over. It's just a small matter. How could we trouble our king to personally deal with it? Therefore, Erica refused the committee of history by saying, I can go, and left the house early in the morning. However, in Wuming's opinion, Erica was just bored here and wanted to have some fun. Something happened. The people from the history editing committee said that Bishop Luo Hao is coming to Japan. Erica looked serious. Luo Hao is coming. Wuming remembered his conversation with Luo Hao when he was in China. It seemed that Luo Hao did say that she would return to Japan soon. That's quite believable. It seems that Japan is going to suffer. Erica laughed gloatingly. However, Erica was right. As a godslayer, every king had the ability to cause trouble. One godslayer was already bad enough. If two godslayers came to the same area, it would not be a good outcome. In the records, as long as 2 to more than 10 godslayers gathered in each region, that region would not have a good time. As for Wuming, the exception was to become a godslayer. The several battles that Wuming fought after becoming a godslayer were either carried out in his own barrier, or paid attention to not hurt ordinary people during the battle. After the battle, he would also use the props in Yggdrasil to repair the damaged areas. It could be said that he was the most unlike a godslayer. By the way, why don't you call her Tsuelian anymore? Erica teased. Huina of the Qingqiu courtyard also turned her head slightly and looked at Wuming. Ahem, I was forced by Luo Hao to call her that. At that time, I just didn't change my way of calling her. Wuming coughed and changed the topic. By the way, do you know why Luo Hao is here? Before Erica could speak, Huina of the Qingqiu courtyard answered first. Huina knows this. That lord must be here for Monarch Ape. That's what Kaneko said too, Erica added. Monarch Ape. Wuming muttered this name. It didn't sound like a human or a magician. It sounded more like a monkey-type god of disobedience. I've never heard of a monkey-type god with the name Monarch Ape. Wuming thought about his memory, and asked Kalas to search for information about Monarch Ape. Wuming, can you guess the true identity of Monarch Ape? Erica smiled slyly. Seeing that Wuming was thinking, Huina of the Qingqiu courtyard gave him a clue. Actually, that's a god from another country that Grandpa tricked. Hearing Huina of the Qingqiu courtyard say this, Wuming touched his chin. Hearing this hint and thinking about Luo Hao's behavior of questioning about coming to Japan, Wuming could almost guess who this Monarch Ape was. The great sage, heaven's equal Sun Wukong. Erica said the name of this god of disobedience. Sure enough, From the 3 hints of other gods, Luohao's country, and the monkey, he could only think of the all-powerful great sage, heaven's equal. Actually, monarch ape is still sealed. Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard said something surprising. Sealed. Where? Wu Ming asked. In the West Heaven Palace on Mount Riguang. Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard smiled. Mount Riguang was located in the Kanto region. As a tourist attraction with many shrines and temples, it attracted many foreign and domestic tourists every year. Especially in autumn, the red maple leaves on Mount Riguang were the main reason for most tourists to come. According to Kaneji Winter Horse, 100 years ago, Hierarch Luo Hao came to Japan with the excuse that it's a shame that he was raised by the Japanese despite being a hero of our country. He raised the West Heaven Palace together with the ground. But because Monarch Ape escaped to secluded world, it was left unsettled, Erica added. So Luo Hao's purpose is to try to kill the great sage, heaven's equal again. In that case, doesn't he have to first liberate the disobedient Sun Wukong? Wu Ming already understood why the history editing committee came to him. Not to mention the conflict between the 2 kings, just the fact that Hierarch Luo Hao liberated Monarch Ape and made him appear as the disobedient Sun Wukong was already a disaster. If it's Luo Hao, it's understandable. Chapter 197. After all, Luo Hao comes from a country with a strong sense of nationality. Moreover, as a woman born during the Qing dynasty, Luo Hao still had a strong sense of feudalism, even after 200 years had passed. Those not of my race will definitely have different intentions. Those who offend my Huaxia will be punished no matter how far away they are. These words didn't come from the country where Luo Hao came from. The great sage, heaven's equal, the insufferably arrogant monkey king Sun Wukong, was actually being raised by a former vassal country of Japan. It would be strange if she wasn't angry. Honestly, I can only say that as expected of the god of disobedience, a bunch of troublesome existences. Wu Ming shrugged helplessly. Meanwhile, Erica glanced at Wu Ming as if to say, "You're the one who's the most troublesome existence here, and you still have the nerve to talk about others." Of course, Wu Ming chose to ignore all of this. In that case, I'll have to go see your grandfather Hui Na. At night, Wu Ming, Erica, Liliana, Wanli Yoli, and Hui Na from the clear autumn courtyard gathered at a shrine. At this moment, Wu Ming was squatting on the ground and drawing something. Soon the last stroke was completed. All right, in that case the tunnel to the soul world is completed. Wu Ming waved his hand. This tunnel was something that Wanli Yoli and Hui Na from the clear autumn courtyard had told Wu Ming about. Because of Kala's existence, Wu Ming was able to easily complete the extremely difficult spell. Lord Wu Ming, are you really going to enter the soul world? Wanli Yoli looked at Wu Ming worriedly. That's right, Lord Wu Ming. I still feel that this method is inappropriate. Liliana also frowned. Wu Ming naturally knew what the 2 of them were worried about. The soul world, also known as the astral world, was the boundary between life and death, the crack between the worlds. The air in the soul world was unable to allow anyone to survive. Ordinary people or even magicians, if they stayed in the soul world in a state where they had no magic power, it wouldn't take long for them to enter a poisoned state. It would only take a few minutes for them to completely die. Although it was called the boundary between life and death, if one died in this world, their body and soul would also disappear. This was enough to show just how terrifying the soul world was. However, this wasn't the most terrifying part. That was because as long as one didn't have a physical body or had magic power cover their entire body, they would still be able to survive in soul world. The most terrifying part was the god of disobedience. That's right. Although the gods of disobedience all appeared in the real world, there were also gods of disobedience in the soul world. Ever since the ancient times, powerful creatures had been bound by human myths and legends. In the soul world, there were multiple gods, including Pandora, whom Wu Ming had met not long ago. A conservative estimate was that there were more than 20 gods in the soul world. Apart from the king of disobedience, there were also all sorts of powerful creatures, such as human magicians who had reached the pinnacle of cultivation, god ancestors who had fallen from the goddess of the earth, and so on. It was just that there were far fewer of them in Soul World. These gods were basically all tired of wreaking havoc on the earth, so they all entered the Soul World, which was called seclusion. However, there were also exceptions, and Pandora was one of them. The witch Pandora, she was the god of disobedience who had existed in the Soul World since ancient times. Killing the god of disobedience and obtaining its power was a great curse set by Pandora. As the witch who left behind the only hope for mankind, Pandora could already be said to be the mother of the god-slayers. That was also why when Wu Ming first met Pandora, Pandora called herself Mother. After that, perhaps because of Wu Ming's identity as the god of disobedience, Pandora took a step back and chose to be the elder sister. Wu Ming still had some doubts about becoming a god-slayer with the identity of the god of disobedience. Wu Ming always felt that Pandora knew that he wasn't from this world. Wu Ming didn't believe that Pandora just chose an ordinary god of disobedience to become a god-slayer. It may also be because of this, under Pandora's design, Wu Ming could become a god-slayer in this world with a disobedient body. Now that I thought about it, Wu Ming, the god of disobedience, entering the Soul World seemed quite reasonable. Don't worry, I am the combination of snake and steel. Those gods of disobedience who live in seclusion in the Soul World are just timid in my opinion. In the face of timid people, even if there are many gods, I won't do anything. Believe in Wu Ming, believe in the king of disobedience. Erica looked at Wu Ming with confidence. Hui Na also believes that the king will be fine. At this moment, Hui Na exuded a very strong Yamato Nadeshiko smile. It was indeed worthy of being called a top-notch Yamato Nadeko by Kaneko Winterhorse. This momentum was really not for show. Seeing Wu Ming, Erica, and Hui Na said so, Liliana and Yuri didn't say anything, but their worries couldn't be completely eliminated. Then, I'll take my leave first, Wu Ming said with a smile. Then the magic formation instantly lit up, making the four people unable to open their eyes. After the light disappeared, the four people looked at Wu Ming. There was only an empty magic formation left in the place, and there was magic power exuding around it, indicating that Wu Ming was here just now. The four people didn't leave, but sat around the magic formation, waiting quietly. The environment in the Soul World was actually similar to the main world. Mountains, cities, beaches, and oceans, but these places were covered in gray. The only thing that didn't exist was that there were no living creatures. In addition to these ordinary landscapes, there were also various strange worlds in the Soul World, such as abstract painting style, Cthulhu style, and other kinds of appearances that were difficult for ordinary people to accept. In addition to these natural existences, the powerful existences in the Soul World, such as the god of disobedience, could also create and change the appearance of the surroundings to suit themselves. For example, when Wu Ming met Pandora, the space she was in was a completely white space with nothing else. This was the environment that Pandora had created for herself. Inside the Soul World, a ray of light suddenly appeared. After the ray of light landed, it transformed into Wu Ming. Wu Ming's current environment was a city that looked similar to the main world. However, this city was covered in gray. So this is the Soul World. There's so much magic power here, Wu Ming exclaimed as he observed his surroundings and sensed the abundant magic power here. Master, I can sense knowledge. At this moment, Kala spoke up while standing on top of Wu Ming's head. Knowledge? Wu Ming asked. Yes, Master. You can try to think about some things. Wu Ming listened to Kalas and activated the god of disobedience. Wu Ming instantly opened his eyes wide as a large amount of knowledge poured into Wu Ming's mind. Wu Ming stopped thinking and shook his head. This was the side effect of a large amount of knowledge instantly entering his mind. I never expected that the Soul World would have such an effect as well. While Wu Ming was thinking about the god of disobedience, almost all the information about the god of disobedience started flowing into Wu Ming's mind. However, because there was too much information, Wu Ming instantly disconnected the information. It could be said that the Soul World was a gigantic global information library. If one wanted to find any information, they could meditate in the Soul World, and the Soul World would instantly stuff all the information into their mind. That's right, the Soul World would stuff all the information that one wanted into one's mind. Wu Ming thought of a word. Omniscient and omnipotent. As long as one thought about something in this world, they would definitely obtain the answer. What else could this be if not omniscient and omnipotent? Collis, I'll have to trouble you this time. Chapter 198. Yes, Master. After Collis finished speaking, she began to glow. Wu Ming knew that Collis was constantly recording things related to this world. As long as Collis thought of a series of questions, she could get the answer. The answers were stored by Collis for convenient reference in the future. Knowledge was actually wisdom, which was an extremely precious resource. Odin sacrificed an eye to obtain supreme wisdom, which was the Lune Rune. Zeus obtained supreme wisdom after swallowing the goddess of wisdom, Métis. This was enough to show the importance of wisdom and knowledge. After Collis entered her working state, Wu Ming began to wander around, looking at the surrounding scenery. No wonder there are gods living in seclusion here. Although this place is a bit strange, it is still a good place to live in seclusion. With that, Wu Ming stopped, because a small wooden house appeared in front of him. Interesting. Wu Ming's mouth curled up slightly, then he walked towards the small wooden house. Opening the door of the small wooden house, he saw darkness. Although he couldn't see what was inside, Wu Ming still walked in. After entering, what entered Wu Ming's eyes was a gloomy space. In the middle of the space, there were 3 people sitting. On the left was an old monk wearing an ancient monk robe. On the right was a young girl with glass eyes wearing a gorgeous princess robe. The one in the middle was a middle-aged man with messy black hair. He was dressed in a rather sloppy ancient warrior's attire. Obviously, the black-haired middle-aged man in the middle was the leader of the old monk and the glass-eyed princess. The 3 of them sat in a triangular formation. There was a small hanging furnace in the middle with sake in it. The middle-aged man held a wine vessel in his hand, and the old monk and the glass-eyed princess didn't have wine cups or anything like that beside them. Obviously, this was prepared for the middle-aged man. Wu Ming walked in front of the middle-aged man, to the right of the monk and the left of the glass-eyed princess, and sat down. Welcome, King of Disobedience. The glass-eyed princess bowed slightly and spoke first. Wu Ming nodded to show his respect. The old monk didn't say anything and Wu Ming didn't care about him either. Ha 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 ha, do you want a bite, otherworlder? After the glass-eyed princess finished speaking, the big man in the middle raised his cup and shook it at Wu Ming. Wu Ming narrowed his eyes. It seemed that Pandora was not the only one who knew that he came from another world. Forget about drinking. I don't really like drinking with people I'm not familiar with. Speaking of which, you're the grandfather that Hui Na mentioned, right? Wu Ming asked directly. That's right. I'm Hui Na's grandfather. What do you think? My granddaughter isn't bad, right? The burly man said with an evil look on his face as he drank another mouthful of wine. Hui Na is a good child. It's a shame for her to stay under you. Wu Ming ignored the man's evil look and directly spoke sarcastically. Anyway, I've already given her to you. Just treat her as your witch. The burly man didn't care about Wu Ming's sarcasm, smiled casually, and then drank another mouthful of wine. Let's not talk too much. I don't care who the 2 people beside you are. I just want to know if the last king was hidden by you. The male life of Susanoo. Wu Ming not only directly stated his purpose, but also the real name of the burly man. Yes, the burly man in front of Wu Ming is a famous Japanese god, the male life of Susanoo. Susanoo was one of the 3 sons of Izanagi and Izanami, the 2 ancient gods of Japan. The other 2 are the Japanese sun goddesses, Amaterasu Amikami and Tsukuyomi. In Japan's Kojiki, Susanoo is called the male life of Susanoo. He also has many names such as Tame Horsehead, Tame King Susanoo, and so on. All in all, Susanoo is a very important god in the pantheon, comparable to Athena of Greece. The reason why Wu Ming knew of the burly man's name was because of the long item wrapped in cloth from Clear Autumn Courtyard's Hui Na, Heavenly Cloud Sword. Hui Na claimed that this was the sky cluster cloud that her grandfather bestowed upon her, but Wu Ming discovered that this sky cluster cloud was a subsidiary god. The only god who could make the Heavenly Cloud Sword be affiliated to was Susanoo. According to the legend, Susanoo wielded the sword of Tatsuka and killed the Yamata no Orochi. He found a treasure sword from the tail of the Yamata no Orochi, which was the heavenly cloud sword. In other words, the burly man was steel. However, the burly man was not displeased when his real name was revealed. Instead, he laughed out loud. Emph. As I said, as long as he comes in contact with Huina, he will know your name. The old monk sitting on the left said with some displeasure. So what? It doesn't matter to me whether he knows or not. It's really exciting. I have many names. Let's call me Susanoo for the time being. What about you, alien? Susanoo grinned and then asked Wuming. I also have many names, but my favorite is Wuming. Just call me Wuming. As soon as he said that, the old monk and Princess Glass Eyes instantly understood Wuming's intention. Since he was a god, he must have a weakness. Just like the followers of the Holy Grail War, hiding their real name was to avoid weaknesses. The name Wuming didn't sound like a god. In this way, they couldn't find his weakness through his name. Do you think we can't know your real name if you don't tell us? Your battle with another godslayer has already exposed your real name, Villosilenced. The old monk was quite unconvinced. After the old monk said that, Princess Glass Eyes realized that something was going to happen. When she was about to speak, Wuming spoke. If my perception is correct, you are a human. Wuming's eyes became sharp and looked directly at the old monk. In Wuming's perception, the old monk was not a god, but a magician who cultivated to the extreme. And Princess Glass Eyes had a similar aura to Guinevere, whom Wuming had seen before. There was no doubt that Princess Glass Eyes was a god. Everyone here is a great existence. You are just a human. How dare you be presumptuous in front of me? Boom. Wuming's magical power rushed out of his body. Wuming's scarlet eyes stared at the old monk, as if he was looking at a dead man. The old monk couldn't move, as if he was in a dragon's nest, being stared at by tens of thousands of dragons. That was the pressure caused by Wuming releasing his dragon's power. The old monk's face instantly turned pale. Princess Glass Eyes and Susanoo, who were not targeted, also felt a little pressure. Please be merciful, Wuming-sama. Princess Glass Eyes said awkwardly. Wuming looked at her, and Princess Glass Eyes instantly broke out in cold sweat. Then, Wuming looked at Susanoo, who had already stopped smiling. Then Wuming put away his dragon's power. In an instant, the old monk who was targeted breathed a sigh of relief. How about it? Do you want to continue to test me, Susanoo-sama? Chapter 199. Wuming's words were not wrong at all. From the beginning, when Wuming came in, the old monk did not speak. It was not until Wuming said Susanoo's real name that the old monk opened his mouth. Every time the old monk spoke, he was targeting Wuming, and Wuming could naturally see it. And although the three of them were sitting in a situation where Susanoo was the leader, it did not mean that he was the leader. It could be seen from Princess Glass Eyes' attempt to stop the old monk's speech, but she was interrupted by Wuming. The reason why he was interrupted was because Wuming also wanted to show Susanoo who was in charge. From the way Wuming released draconic force to suppress the old monk, it could be seen that Susanoo's smile had disappeared. As the root dragon, after absorbing the root power of the X-Moon world, Wuming's draconic force had reached an unprecedented height. Especially just now, if Wuming suddenly released draconic force at a very close distance and the other party was not prepared, he would be completely suppressed. Even Susanoo, who was not the target, felt the pressure, so he had to take it seriously. As for the magic power, Wuming deliberately released it to set off the atmosphere. You only need to tell me about the last king and monarch ape. I don't want to know anything else, including their identities. When Wuming said this, Susanoo began to laugh. Ha 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 ha, he kept slapping his thigh, and the magic power of Susanoo also leaked out. After laughing, Susanoo instantly looked at Wuming. As expected of someone from another world, you're really not weak. Even I, the graduated god of disobedience, want to play with you. Susanoo's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. In response, Wuming just said a few words. Is that so? Boom! The small wooden house instantly exploded, and three figures escaped somewhat awkwardly. God of disobedience, please calm down. Princess Glass Eyes said a little anxiously. The old monk next to her was a little angry. He's too arrogant. Why don't we take him down together? The old monk looked at Susanoo and Princess Glass Eyes. Take me down? I even wonder if you're too old for your head. Wu Ming's voice came from the small wooden house that had turned into a pile of ruins. Although you were frozen by my draconic force was a sneak attack, don't overestimate yourself. Yes, although Wu Ming had successfully frozen the old monk with his draconic force, it did not mean that the old monk was a powerless guy. A magician who could work with the god of disobedience and the god ancestor had a certain degree of strength. But boom! The ruins exploded and a meteor flashed through the ruins, accompanied by the sound of chains. It charged towards the old monk. Not good. Susanoo shouted and quickly retreated. Princess Glass Eyes followed, and the old monk stayed where he was. Don't underestimate me, Godslayer. The old monk roared and put his palms together to form a Buddhist seal. The Buddhist seals formed a wall filled with Buddhist aura. Boundless demonic power gushed out in all directions. One look and one could tell that this was not a weak move. However, the silver-white meteor easily broke through the Buddhist wall, as easily as a stone falling into the water. What? The old monk couldn't believe it. He was quite confident in his curse technique. That wall just now, even Susanoo would have a hard time attacking it. He didn't expect Wu Ming to break through it so easily. The chains wrapped around the silver meteor hit the old monk fiercely. The old monk was knocked away like a deflated ball, and fell heavily to the ground. The old monk spat out blood. Obviously, as a human, even if his means were superb, his physical fitness was still inferior to Wu Ming. The silver meteor stopped, revealing Wu Ming's figure holding the rune of 10,000 methods. He just relied on the rune of 10,000 methods to easily break through the old monk's Buddhist wall. After all, as long as it was made of magical power, rune of 10,000 methods could return it to its original state, that is, nothing. In fact, if you used countless rule breakers to pierce a servant, you would be able to directly return to the martyr's palace. This was because a servant was an amalgamation of magic power. Of course, that was only if the servant stood there and did nothing to stop you from stabbing it. The rule breaker talisman in his hand, which had exhausted all of its power, shattered. Then Wu Ming looked at Susanoo, who dodged the chains just now, and Princess Glass Eyes, who went to the old monk's side to heal him. At the same time, Princess Glass Eyes spoke. Please calm down, Lord of Disobedience. Princess Glass Eyes' voice sounded quite helpless. Because she respected Wu Ming from the beginning, Wu Ming didn't want to trouble her, so Wu Ming didn't care about Princess Glass Eyes who healed the old monk. As for the old monk, if it weren't for Princess Glass Eyes, he would have died a long time ago. One must know that the current Enkidu was not a chain that could only bind the gods and myths. Instead, it had evolved into a powerful chain that could both attack and defend. Moreover, its binding effect had been enhanced ahead of time. That's Heaven's Lock, right? Susanoo asked. Although he didn't know what the lightning-shaped dagger in Wu Ming's hand was, it didn't mean that he didn't know the golden chain. Susanoo, who had a special intelligence channel, naturally knew that Wu Ming had a golden chain in his hand, and it was a chain that could attack gods. After careful study, Susanoo has determined that it was the Enkidu of the Sumer gods in Mesopotamia. That was why he dodged Wu Ming's attack just now. If he was tied by that chain, he would be at the mercy of Wu Ming. As expected of the Susanoo who used tricks to kill Orochi, it seems that you can only play tricks. Wu Ming sneered, then turned around. Susanoo's face was gloomy. I will kill the great sage, Heaven's equal, and I will deal with the last king. After saying that, Wu Ming disappeared. Shrine. After Wu Ming entered Soul World, Erica, Liliana, Yuri, and Hina stayed around the magic formation. No one complained. They just waited quietly. At this time, the magic formation lit up again. All four of them were attracted to it. Wu Ming's figure appeared in the center of the magic formation. How is it solved? Erica asked. Chapter 200. Half and Half. As soon as Rosin said that, Erica and the others were quite confused. There were two reasons why Wuming went to Seoul World to see Huina's grandfather. The first was about Luo Hao's crusade against the great sage. The second was about the last king. Although Silent Wonder didn't get anything out of Susanu's mouth, because of his relationship with Yushur, the moment he asked the question, Silent Wonder was informed by Yushur about the great sage, Heaven's equal and the last king. However, because Yushur directly transmitted the knowledge to Wuming's mind instead of answering the question, Yushur only passed on the history of the last king and the great sage. After the last king killed the last godslayer of the previous generation, he fell into a deep sleep in the place where he killed the last godslayer of the previous generation, which was Japan. Because it was a piece of history, Wuming didn't know who the last king was. He only saw the scene of him holding the sword of salvation and releasing the thunder of salvation. His figure was blocked by the lightning, so Wuming didn't see his figure clearly. However, Wuming always felt that there was a special power protecting him, so Wuming couldn't see his identity. The great sage, Heaven's equal, was much easier to deal with. The great sage, Heaven's equal, was sealed by the old monk, Susanu, Princess Glassy Eyes, and several other gods who lived in seclusion. They used a spell to target the great sage, Heaven's equal. When the dragon snake appeared, the spell that trapped the great sage would weaken, and the great sage would be released. After the dragon snake was killed, the great sage would be forced back to the Western Heavenly Palace by the spell. Wuming guessed that the reason for this was to prevent the dragon snake from attracting the last king of the strongest steel. As everyone knew, steel and serpent were mortal enemies. Where there was serpent, there would be steel. Therefore, in order to prevent the last king from appearing, the great sage needed to eliminate the dragon and serpent. The reason why Wuming only said half of it was because there was too little information about the last king, so Wuming couldn't analyze the last king's weakness. Because of the lack of information, Wuming's warrior avatar has been unable to be activated. But Wuming walked to the steps of the shrine. I will solve the problem of the great sage and the last king, Wuming said arrogantly. Wuming's words were full of confidence, which made several people who were a little uneasy at first feel relieved. Let's go back to sleep. After that, Wuming took the lead. Erica and the others looked at each other. Then they smiled and followed soundless out of the shrine. The next day, airport. Wuming came here with Erica, Liliana, and Huina, waiting for someone's arrival. Wuming couldn't help but remember the content of Alice's call to him yesterday. Last night, Wuming returned to his room, and as soon as he lay down, the mobile phone specially prepared for Wuming rang. Because of Wuming's identity, the contacts on his mobile phone were basically the phone numbers of some high-level Magic Association members. This was to facilitate Wuming's actions in each area, although Wuming didn't need it. In addition to those, there were also the phone numbers of Erica, Liliana, Kodoan, Huina, Alice, Salvatore, and a few others. Of course, Wuming did not delete Salvatore's phone number, and he specifically marked hang up. He picked up the phone and looked at the words Princess Alice written on it. By the way, this mobile phone was given to Wuming by Alice. She called it, "I'm so busy that I can't contact you, so I specially prepared a mobile phone for you." Wuming picked up the phone and spoke immediately. "How can our princess have time to call me?" Wuming said calmly. "Master Wuming, you are really good at joking. Just call me Alice." Although the attitude was very respectful, Wuming still heard a trace of slyness from her words. "Well, take it as a return gift for the last time in your room," Wuming said with a sly smile. Although Alice looked like a well-behaved girl, Wuming knew that she had the potential to be a little witch in her bones. He could see it just by the fact that she had escaped from his house. "Really, Master Wuming, I have something serious to talk to you about now." Although this sentence sounded very calm, Alice, who was on the other end of the phone, had already blushed. Fortunately, there was no one else around her. It was really a blessing to see Princess Alice of Europe blushing. "You are coming to Japan tomorrow, right?" Wuming did not tease Alice anymore, and went straight to the topic. "Oh, how did Master Wuming know? Did Mr. Sebastian say it?" Alice's voice was full of surprise. In this regard, Wuming just smiled. When Wuming came to Japan, he specifically contacted Sebastian through contact magic, and asked him to bring Alice to Japan to study the last king together. The reason why Alice had not come yet after a few days was that Alice still had to deal with some things in Europe. Alice had originally escaped from her own house using the ghost body, which meant that Alice owed some work. Although Alice was the current special advisor of the Sage Parliament and didn't have many things to do, it still couldn't stop the accumulation of work. In fact, the reason why Alice sneaked to Wu Ming's place in Italy at that time was because the birth of the seventh king added a lot of tasks, which needed the permission of Alice, the former speaker and now special advisor, to carry out. Because of Alice's stubbornness, the accumulated missions had increased by the time she returned. The most important thing was Ericsson's obstruction. Although her master's body was fine, Ericsson was still a little worried about letting Alice cross half the world and go to Japan. As long as she was not facing the God-Slayer, Ericsson could be said to be a perfect career woman. Even facing Sebastian, at most, she would just give in a little. Just as Seabass was about to argue with her, Alice stopped him. After that, Alice secretly left her house and boarded the plane. That's right, Master Wu Ming. I have already boarded the plane with Mr. Sebastian. I think we will arrive tomorrow morning. Remember to come and pick me up. Then, after Wu Ming said oh, Wu Ming hung up the phone and went to sleep. Really, you are not a child anymore. Do you still need someone to pick you up? In the room provided by the History Editing Committee, Wu Ming said casually. Although he said that, Wu Ming still brought his old and new servants to pick him up. Wu Ming, Her Highness Alice has arrived. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.